Chapter 505. In the depths of the Heaven Pond Mountain. As smooth as a mirror, the water of the Heaven Pond reflected the scenery of the sky. The water of the Heaven Pond was boiling with cold air. Occasionally, white energy would spread outwards. In the middle of the Heaven Pond, a giant snow lotus stood against the wind and snow. Every petal had a mysterious Daoist rhyme. There was a white-robed woman sitting on top of this snow lotus. The lady looked around blankly, as if she was unaware of her current situation. What is this? The woman suddenly sensed that there was a white mist coming out of the snow lotus and entering her body. This fog actually caused her to feel a wave of coldness. What a terrifying chill. This snow lotus is definitely a treasure. But what's going on? The lady wanted to leave the snow lotus, but a few silhouettes slowly walked over. These people were ecstatic when they saw the snow lotus. Ice Heart Snow Lotus. The rumors were true. There really is such a treasure like the Ice Heart Snow Lotus. The few people rushed to the edge of the Heaven Pond. But when they saw the lady on the snow lotus, their faces darkened. Who is she? Why is she on the snow lotus? Damn it! Did someone get to it before us? The few people's faces darkened. One of the cold-looking lady couldn't hold it in anymore. She raised her hand and activated her spiritual energy. A snow-white spider silk mixed with spiritual energy flew out. This spider silk contained a strong power. The lady on the snow lotus wanted to defend herself. But before she could do anything, the snow lotus under her feet moved slightly. The cold air around the Heaven Pond surged and formed an ice wall, blocking the spider silk. The lady was shocked. This snow lotus is protecting me? Thinking about this, she was in no hurry to leave. The few people on the lakeside did not look like good people. If she went up, they might do something to her. Damn it! Why is the Ice Heart Snow Lotus protecting this lady? Who is this person? On the lakeside, the few people's faces darkened. Rumor has it that the Ice Heart Snow Lotus is a spiritual object. It will choose its owner. It seems like the rumor is true. A muscular man said. This person was a prodigy of the white fur snow lion race. At this moment, he was staring at the Ice Heart Snow Lotus with fiery eyes. However, when he looked at the woman on top of it, his face darkened. Look, the energy of the Ice Heart Snow Lotus is continuously merging with that woman. If this continues, we won't have a share of this fortune. I have to think of a way to interrupt this process. Attack! In an instant, the few sky prides who were present struck. All sorts of powerful energies were unleashed, and each of them was at the level of a holy king. However, the snow lotus swayed, and the cold air of the heavenly lake gathered around it, forming a wall of cold air and ice, isolating all the energy outside. How majestic was the cold air in this heavenly lake! It was not something that these geniuses could easily break through. Seeing that she was temporarily safe, the woman on the snow lotus began to examine her own situation. She discovered that after the white mist from the snow lotus entered her body, it was actually slowly transforming her body. Moreover, this transformation was beneficial. Could it be that this snow lotus can raise my frost Daoist physique to another level? The frost Daoist physique. This woman was Wuxia Xianxia, whom Chu Quangren was looking for. Thinking that her Daoist physique could be upgraded to another level, Wuxia Xianxia could not help but be overjoyed. She sat cross-legged on the snow lotus and actively absorbed the energy that was escaping from it. D****, woman, get out of the Ice Heart Snow Lotus now. The sky prides at the edge of the heavenly lake could not help but roar. However, Wuxia Xianxia was not stupid. She knew that nothing good would come out of it if she went down now, so she ignored them. Miss, this Ice Heart Snow Lotus is very important to us. Please leave, we promise that we won't hurt you. We'll even give you precious treasures. If you don't leave, even if you can refine this ice-heart snow lotus, you won't be able to escape from the attacks of our orthodoxies. At this moment, a gentle-looking sky pride said. He was both tempting and threatening. Compared to the previous sky pride who only knew how to talk tough, he was much smarter. However, Xianxia still acted like she did not hear him. Then don't blame us. That gentle-looking man could no longer pretend and said with a fierce expression, everyone, continue attacking. I don't believe that we can't break through this snow lotus defense. Outside the heavenly lake, there was a barrier set up by a few orthodoxies. This barrier was extremely strong. Even a sage would find it hard to break through. Outside the barrier, some of the sages looked in the direction of the heavenly lake helplessly. This Gu clan, Sima clan, Snow Spider clan, and Snow Lion clan are too overbearing. This heavenly lake doesn't even belong to them, yet they've taken over this place. They're eating the lion's share while giving us some soup that they don't want. This is too much, a sage said angrily. What can we do? They're the ones with the bigger fists, another sage said helplessly. This time, there's a disturbance in the heavenly lake. It's obvious that a treasure has appeared. The most legendary treasure in the Tianqi mountain is the Ice Heart Snow Lotus. It is said that this treasure needs at least 100,000 years to grow, and it has the power of heaven's creation. It is said that in history, there was a great emperor who was originally average, but after he obtained the Ice Heart Snow Lotus, his body was transformed, and it played a key role in his ascension to the throne. The sages discussed, yearning for the treasure in the heavenly lake. However, they dared not cross the boundary because of the few ancient orthodoxies. Look, someone's coming. At that moment, someone suddenly looked into the distance and said in surprise. It was just that the person who came was too extraordinary. That person was dressed in white and had black hair. His face was covered with a faint layer of spiritual light, so his face could not be seen clearly. However, one could vaguely tell that he was an extraordinary person. His white clothes were spotless, and his temperament was extraordinary. It was as if he had become one with the snow-white world. That person faced the snowy wind and slowly walked to the wall outside the heavenly lake. What's he trying to do? Could he be from one of those orthodoxies? No, if he's from the other orthodoxies, he can just go in. Why would he stop? The crowd began to whisper to each other, watching the scene with great interest. That person was Chu Kuangren. He looked at the wall in front of him and slowly reached out to touch it. All of a sudden, crackling electric arcs exploded in the void and swept towards Chu Kuangren. Those electric arcs were so powerful that even an ordinary sage would not be able to withstand it. However, Chu Kuangren allowed those electric arcs to hit his body. They were numb and could not cause any damage to his supreme sage body. The surrounding sages were speechless at that. That physical body is a little too insane. Then, Chu Kuangren did something that shocked them even more. He grabbed the wall with both his hands and tore it apart, allowing the terrifying electric arcs to wreak havoc on his body. With a loud boom, Chu Kuangren used his bare hands and physical body to tear a huge hole in the barrier that the ancient orthodoxies had set up. Chapter 506. Tiny electric arcs swam in the void and continuously bombarded Chu Kuangren's body. However, these attacks were of no use to him at all. These attacks were like tickles to his supreme sage body. Just like that, Chu Kuangren forcefully tore a huge hole in the barrier with his bare hands. The moment the barrier was destroyed, the strong cultivators from the ancient orthodoxy sensed something. Someone has destroyed the barrier. Who is it? D****, who dares to go against us? The strong cultivator from the ancient orthodoxy who was closest to the barrier rushed towards it. Not long after, that person arrived at the barrier. When he saw Chu Kuangren, a cold glint flashed across his eyes. You're the one who destroyed the barrier that we've set up. Do you know that your actions are no different from declaring war against the great orthodoxies? This person was tall and had a circle of white fur around his neck. His eyes were pale yellow like those of a beast. Chu Kuangren activated his Eye of Revelation. Bai Lei, a snow lion, boundary emperor, Bai Lei's information appeared in Chu Kuangren's eyes. Although his opponent was also a boundary emperor, he was one of the weakest boundary emperors. He posed no threat to Chu Kuangren at all. However, he was still a boundary emperor. His aura was still very terrifying to the sages who were watching from the outside. This is bad. This guy has offended a boundary emperor. TSK, this guy looks very powerful, but he's only one person. Offending an ancient orthodoxy won't end well for him. Maybe this guy has some kind of powerful background? The sages discussed among themselves, waiting to see how things would develop next. Chu Kuangren looked at Bai Lei and said, I'm here to look for someone. I have no intention of becoming your enemy. Humph, I don't care who you're looking for. To barge into the spirit formation barrier set up by our orthodoxies without permission is equivalent to declaring war on us. If that's the case, you can treat it as a declaration of war. Chu Kuangren curled his lips and did not explain further. You're asking for it. The Snow Lion tribe was a hot-tempered person. When they saw Chu Kuangren's attitude, they immediately attacked Chu Kuangren. With a punch, the surrounding snowstorm gathered and turned into a roaring lion shadow that charged towards Chu Kuangren. Little kitty, be good and go to the side. Chu Kuangren lifted his hand and pointed a finger at the void. In an instant, a surging finger force exploded. It was the monarch technique, heart-piercing finger. Heart-piercing finger, strike at the heart of the Tao. Bai Lei's mind was instantly affected, and the lion phantom formed by the wind and snow was instantly shattered, turning into mist that filled the sky. As for Bai Lei himself, he was sent flying hundreds of feet away by the powerful strength qi. Lying on the ground, his aura instantly weakened. He had defeated a quasi-emperor in one move. Chu Kuangren's combat strength instantly shocked all the sages outside. F***ck, who is this? What a terrifying battle strength. Where did this person come from? Judging from his appearance, he should be a heaven's chosen of the younger generation. How could he have such a battle strength? The expression of Bai Lei, who was sent flying, was also somewhat terrified. One move, he was defeated in one move. In front of Chu Kuangren, he was no different from a kitten. After defeating Bai Lei, Chu Kuangren did not care whether his opponent lived or died. Instead, he walked straight towards the heavenly lake. Upon entering the enchanted boundary, Chu Kuangren released his spiritual thoughts and finally confirmed that Xianxia was at the heavenly lake. However, she seemed to be in a rather delicate situation. Inside the heavenly lake, Xianxia was still sitting in the icy lotus, and the changes that the icy lotus had done to her were becoming more and more obvious. More and more people were gathering at the edge of the heavenly lake. Aside from the few sky prides who came earlier, another group of people had arrived. Most of these sky prides were from the Sima family, Gu family, Snow Spider clan, and Snow Lion clan, the four ancient orthodoxies. However, there was one person who was rather special. That person was dressed in a long black robe and had a cold aura around him. He was just one person, but he represented an entire camp. Although he was alone, the other sky prides did not dare to be careless when facing him. That was because this person represented an ancient orthodoxy. Moreover, this person was also one of the top sky prides in that ancient orthodoxy. Wang Tianteng, one of the sky prides from the outside world. He's also a sky pride from the Wang family. This person's strength should not be underestimated. The sky prides from the ancient orthodoxies looked at Wang Tianteng with a solemn expression. In fact, the ancient orthodoxies' Gu family was also a vassal of the Wang family, which was why Wang Tianteng was here. Oh, Wang Tianteng. It's you. At that moment, Xianxia, who was in the icy lotus, also noticed Wang Tianteng and could not help but be slightly surprised. Oh, you know me? In the past, you were ranked 4th on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard by Tian Jizi. Xianxia said. Back then, the Soaring Dragon leaderboard was quite famous in the Firmament Star, so she naturally paid attention to it. Looks like you're a sky pride from the Firmament Star. Wang Tianting did not care much. It was not surprising that someone from the Firmament Star had entered the Emperor's Road. That's right, my name is Xianxia, and I'm from the Black Heaven sect. Xianxia smiled faintly. After hearing the 3 words Black Heaven sect, Wang Tianting's pupils shrank. He looked around in panic as if he was afraid of something. Seeing his expression, the sky prides from the ancient orthodoxies were quite surprised. What was it that made Wang Tianting look like that? After all, he was a top-notch sky pride that was only second to the forbidden sky prides. Where's Chu Kuangren? Did he come to the heavenly lake too? Wang Tianting asked. Why don't you take a guess? Xianxia smiled faintly. Humph, he's just bluffing. Wang Tianting snorted and gradually calmed down. He recalled that when one entered the Emperor's Road, the sky prides from the outside world would be teleported away. It seemed that Xianxia had been separated from Chu Kuangren. As long as Chu Kuangren isn't here, what do I have to fear? This snow lotus is mine now. Wang Tianting sneered. He wanted to break the ice wall around the Ice Heart Snow Lotus and take it for himself. If you want to take the Snow Lotus, you'll have to ask for my permission first. At that moment, a cold voice was heard. A white-robed figure suddenly flew over, and a surge of sage's aura suddenly filled the air. The person who came was a woman. She was dressed in clothes as white as snow and had an incomparably beautiful face. It's the Spider Princess. It's great that the Spider Princess is here. The Spider Princess was the strongest sky pride of the Snow Spider clan. She was a top-notch sky pride that was no weaker than Wang Tianting. The Snow Lion clan doesn't want to give up on this Snow Lotus so easily. Another person walked over. It was a burly man with a majestic gait and a domineering aura. It looks like it won't be easy for the Sima clan to obtain this Snow Lotus. A snow-white sword ray flew over and revealed a white-robed young swordsman with a cold sword chi emanating from his body. It's Bai Shirshin of the Snow Lion clan, the strongest sky pride of this generation. It's not just the Snow Lion clan. Sima Ren of the Sima clan is here too. He's one of the few Sword Dao sky prides who are only second to Jian Daozi among the younger generation of the Emperor's Road. It's getting more and more lively. The strongest sky prides of the 3 great ancient orthodoxies are here. However, the Gu clan doesn't seem to have any sky prides who can go against these 3. They're just vassals of the Wang clan. It looks like Wang Tianting will be competing with these 3 for the Snow Lotus. At the shore of the Heavenly Lake, the crowd could not help but look forward to seeing the top sky prides of this generation. Chapter 507. Why? Do you want to fight with the Wang clan? Wang Tianting looked at the strongest sky prides from the ancient orthodoxies. Although the Wang clan is powerful, don't forget that this is the Emperor's Road. Most of the Wang clan's power is in the 9 heavens. Moreover, no one cares who you are in the Emperor's Road. Anyway, this Ice Heart Lotus is mine, Bai Shirshin sneered. The Spider Princess and Sima Ren also looked at Wang Tianting coldly. Let's see what kind of trash the top sky prides in the Emperor's Road are. As the top sky prides in the 9 heavens, Wang Tianting naturally would not back down easily. The 4 of them did not give way to each other and stood against each other. Powerful auras filled the air and almost covered half of the heavenly lake. Boom! Accompanied by the sound of spiritual power hitting the void, Bai Shirshin made the first move. With a punch, violent spiritual power condensed into the shadow of a white lion, biting towards Wang Tianting. At the side, Sima Ren and the Spider Princess also attacked Wang Tianting. They were all local sky prides in the Emperor's Road, but Wang Tianting was an outsider. No matter how they looked at it, they should get rid of him first. Humph, palm of the 5 elements. Wang Tianteng suddenly roared and struck out with his palm. The light of the 5 elements flowed in the void and spiritual power surged out, turning into a huge colorful palm. Several different types of energy collided with each other, exploding into a violent shockwave that sent the surrounding prodigies flying away one by one. What terrifying strength! It's at least equivalent to a 5th step, no, even a 7th step holy ruler. So strong. As expected of the top existence below the forbidden sky prides. In the snow lotus, Shang Qingxue was also watching the battle attentively. Wang Tianteng's strength is much stronger than when he was in the firmament star. Shang Qingxue murmured. However, this was normal. After all, a year had passed. As the top sky prides, it was impossible for them to stay the same. After a wave of energy collided, the 4 sky prides were all pushed back. A trickle of blood flowed out from the corner of Wang Tianteng's mouth. Even though he had improved a lot in the past year, it was still too much for him to fight one against 3 top-notch geniuses who were no weaker than him. Wang Tianteng, you are no match for the 3 of us. You should just obediently leave. Otherwise, you will be asking for trouble, Bai Shixin said with a sneer. Humph, leave? Impossible. Wang Tianteng took out a quasi-emperor weapon that looked like a bronze bell. Its surface was overflowing with colorful lights and mysterious Daoist rhymes. It was the weapon that he was most familiar with after refining for so many years, the chaotic 5 elements bell. The chaos element 5 elements bell above Wang Tianteng's head emitted rays of colorful light that enveloped his body like an indestructible barrier. Humph, I want to see how you can block it. Bai Shixin growled as he took out a pair of black gloves and put them on. Beast King's Fury. With a furious roar, an extremely terrifying Daoist rhyme erupted from Bai Shixin's body and he punched out like the king of all beasts. The white lion's shadow roared angrily as it collided with the colorful light barrier created by the chaos element 5 elements bell. Instantly, a violent storm erupted in the surroundings. Not far away, the heavenly lake started to ripple as a large amount of cold air surged. When the storm dissipated, Wang Tianteng was seen standing proudly. He was completely unscathed by Bai Shixin's punch. This bell actually has such a strong defense. Bai Shixin, the Spider Princess, and Sima Ren frowned. If we can't break this barrier, how are we going to deal with this fellow? The Spider Princess asked. You guys can't defeat me. How about this, we split this snow lotus equally? Wang Tianteng suddenly spoke. How do we split it equally? This snow lotus has 12 petals. We will each get 3 petals. How about that? Wang Tianteng had also thought it through. Given his current strength, it was unrealistic for him to snatch the snow lotus from the hands of the 3 ancient orthodoxies. In that case, he might as well take a step back and split the snow lotus first. Hearing Wang Tianteng's words, the other 3 looked at each other and fell into deep thought. If you still don't agree, the energy of the snow lotus will be completely absorbed by that woman. When that happens, no one will be able to obtain it. Wang Tianteng said. Alright, then let's each take a step back and split this snow lotus equally. Humph, consider yourself lucky. If it wasn't for that defensive treasure of yours, you wouldn't even be able to get a single strand of hair today. Bai Shixin snorted coldly and looked at Shang Qingxue. He threw a punch, and the surging spiritual power smashed against the barrier formed by the cold air of the heaven lake. The entire heaven lake shook violently. However, although this force was powerful, it was still unable to break through the barrier. As expected of the barrier condensed by the cold air of the heaven lake. It is indeed not that easy to break. However, woman, do you think you can rest easy like this? White Lion thought as he activated his spiritual energy again. The phantom of a white lion emerged from his body and rushed out, smashing into the wall of cold air. A crack suddenly appeared on the originally indestructible barrier. I'll help you too. Wang Tianteng, the Spider Princess, and Sima Ren made their moves as well. Sword Qi, the power of the 5 elements, and the power of wind and snow all landed on the wall of cold air. A large number of cracks instantly extended, covering the entire barrier. Not good. Shang Qingshue's expression changed slightly. Under the joint attack of 4 top-notch prodigies, the cold air barrier could no longer withstand it. With a loud bang, the cold air barrier shattered, and a large amount of turbulent energy surged towards Shang Qingxue. She activated the spiritual power in her body and slashed out with her sword. Cold frost sword Qi interweaved into a sword net in front of her, blocking the surging energy. Although she was not injured, she did not look too good. This energy was only the aftermath of the cold air barrier shattering. It did not mean that she had the ability to deal with Wang Tianteng and the other top-notch prodigies. Although she had improved very quickly over the past year, she could only deal with one at most. Against the joint attack of 4 prodigies, she had no chance of winning at all. Woman, you seem to be quite strong. However, it's a pity that you've encountered us. Before Shuel Yen could form another cold air barrier, Bai Shixin made his move again. The phantom lion that was formed from spiritual power and Daoist rhymes charged towards Shang Qingxue with unparalleled might. Wherever it went, the void trembled and the cold air in the heavenly lake tumbled. Just as Shang Qingxue was about to fight back with all her might, a cold voice rang out from afar. I'd like to see who dares to harm a member of the Black Heaven sect. Before the person arrived, his voice reached them first. Then, a palm chi shot out. The palm chi was so majestic that it instantly shattered the phantom lion. Not only that, but after the palm chi shattered the phantom lion, it was still extremely powerful and swept towards Wang Tianteng and the other 3 prodigies. What? The 4 prodigies' expressions changed drastically. They immediately activated their spiritual power in an attempt to fight back. However, Wang Tianteng seemed to have sensed something and did not have the courage to fight back at all. He immediately activated the 5 elements mixed element bell to its limit, and a dazzling 5-colored radiance instantly enveloped him. However, even this ever-victorious boundary emperor weapon did not give him any sense of security. He looked into the distance with fear in his eyes. He's here. Chapter 508. Who dares to harm my Black Heaven sect's disciples? Accompanied by the arrogant words, a palm chi suddenly swept over from afar. After the violent palm chi shattered the White Lion's shadow, it continued to sweep towards White Lion Xian and the others. The few who were targeted by the palm chi could not evade it at all. They could only channel their spiritual power to resist the attack. However, the power of that palm was too terrifying. Even though the few of them shared the brunt of the attack, they were still sent flying hundreds of meters away. They spat out blood and their faces turned pale. Only Wang Tianteng, who was using the mixed 5-elemental bell to defend himself, fared better. He looked into the distance with fear in his eyes. He's here. That guy is really here. As a top-notch sky pride, Wang Tianteng had never been afraid of anyone in the younger generation in the 9 heavens, except for the forbidden sky prides. However, a year ago, he met someone when he descended to the lower realm to fight for the Emperor's opportunity of fortune. That person had never exchanged blows with him. They had never even spoken to each other. However, that person gave him a huge shock and left an indelible impression in his heart. Now, he could feel that person's aura again. A ray of light landed on the surface of the heavenly lake. That person was dressed in white and had black hair. He was handsome and otherworldly, and everyone's eyes lit up. It's him. Wang Tianteng gulped. Chu Kuangren stood on the surface of the heavenly lake. The cold chi around him did not affect him in the slightest. He glanced at Shang Qingxue, who was on the snow lotus, and activated his eye of revelation. Shang Qingxue, Sage Cultivation level, Frost Physique upgrading, progress at 90%, Chu Kuangren was amazed. The frost physique was already a top-notch Daoist physique. If it was upgraded, it would become a supreme Daoist physique. He did not expect Xiang Qingxue to have such an opportunity of fortune. Sect leader. Upon seeing Chu Kuangren, Xiang Qingxue's face lit up, and her heart instantly calmed down. She knew that as long as the man before her was here, any difficulties would be easily solved. It was a kind of blind worship. Truth be told, Chu Kuangren's name had become an existence that everyone in the Black Heaven sect worshipped. Alright, stay here and improve your Daoist physique. Leave the rest to me. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. He looked at Bai Shixin and the others before him and said with an indifferent expression, "How dare you guys try to hurt the people of my Black Heaven sect?" Black Heaven sect? Which orthodoxy is this? I've never heard of it. It's probably an orthodoxy from the outside world. I know almost all the forces in the 9 heavens, but this is the first time I've heard of the Black Heaven sect. Bai Shixin and the others were bewildered. They had never heard of the Black Heaven sect. Logically speaking, it should not be an ancient orthodoxy. However, the strength that Chu Kuangren had displayed was just too powerful. Just a single palm strike was enough to severely injure 3 elite geniuses. Not only that, who knew how much strength he had used in that single palm strike? Chu Kuangren, if you want this frozen heart lotus, I can let you have it. Wang Tianting said loudly, shocking everyone. He did not expect a top-notch sky pride to be so cowardly in front of Chu Kuangren. What did you just say? Give it to me? Chu Kuangren laughed before his tone suddenly turned extremely cold. Give way. If I wanted it, do I need you to give way? Upon hearing that, Wang Tianting's face instantly turned pale. He felt as if he had said something stupid. I don't care who you are, but this place has been sealed off by a few great orthodoxies. You better hand over the frozen heart lotus and leave this place. Bai Shixin took out a medicinal pill and swallowed it as he said loudly. Although Chu Kuangren's strength was terrifying, the heavenly lake was surrounded by strong cultivators from the ancient orthodoxies. There were even boundary emperors among them. Bai Shixin believed that even a forbidden sky pride would not be able to take the frozen heart lotus away unscathed. Little kitty, you're too noisy. Chu Kuangren said calmly before he gently pointed a finger at Bai Shixin. A surge of finger strength exploded. Bai Shixin's pupils dilated as if he was locked on by some terrifying energy. Before he could react, his mind was shaken, and he lost consciousness for a moment. Then, his head exploded like a watermelon. Red and white matter splattered everywhere. The Spider Princess, Sima Ren, and the others were the closest to him. Before they could react, their bodies were splattered with blood. They were stunned on the spot, trembling with fear in their eyes. It was too terrifying. Before they could even react, a top prodigy had his head smashed into smithereens right in front of them. This kind of power was too terrifying. Lionheart. An angry roar came from afar. A Daoist figure dashed towards them, looking at the headless corpse on the ground with grief and anger. That person was the Boundary Emperor Bai Lei whom Chu Kuangren had casually dismissed. B*****. Are you guys not going to make a move? Bai Lei roared, and a few figures immediately dashed out from all directions. These people all emanated extremely powerful auras. They were the boundary emperors sent by the ancient orthodoxies to monitor the opportunities of fortune at the heavenly lake. The few of them looked at Chu Kuangren fearfully. This person is not easy to deal with. Indeed, his combat strength is no weaker than a boundary emperor's. I can't believe there's such a terrifying sky pride in the outside world. This person is definitely a forbidden existence. Chu Kuangren sized up the few people in front of him and said, I've beaten the young one, and now the old one is here. You ancient orthodoxies are doing this too. You're just bullying me because I have no background. Kid, where did you come from? The few boundary emperors did not dare to make a move. Do you want to fight? If you're not going to make a move, then get lost. You, be *****. The Snow Spider Clan's Boundary Emperor's expression darkened. Without another word, he immediately attacked. Omnipresent Web. With a palm attack, a large amount of spider silk surged and turned into a giant web that enveloped Chu Kuangren. What a disappointing strength. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. The descendant self-sword at his waist clanged and revealed half of its sword ray. The sword ray poured out with unparalleled sharpness. The giant spider silk web was instantly torn in half by the sword ray. However, the sword ray was unstoppable as it surged towards the Snow Spider Clan's Boundary Emperor. With a tearing sound, a mist of blood gushed out. A dignified Boundary Emperor was easily torn in half by the sword ray like a thin piece of paper. Everyone at the scene could not help but narrow their eyes and feel a tingling sensation on their scalps. One sword attack, no, half a sword attack killed a Boundary Emperor. My goodness, what kind of combat strength is this? Who the hell is this guy? How can there be such a terrifying sky pride? The remaining 3 Boundary Emperors were so shocked that they staggered 2 steps back. Wang Tianteng's eyes were filled with shock. It's only been a year, and this guy's strength has become even more unfathomable. Let's go. Bai Lei gulped. He no longer cared about revenge, so he turned around and left with his people. Faced with Chu Kuangren's terrifying combat strength that could kill a Boundary Emperor in seconds, they had no intention of fighting back. Chapter 509. All hail the sect leader. Behind Chu Kuangren, Shang Qingxue could not help but cheer excitedly. Her eyes were filled with admiration. Let's go. Wang Tianteng and the others planned to leave. However, an inexplicable chill suddenly enveloped him, causing him to shudder. The others may leave, but the one who attacked my Black Heaven sect's disciple cannot leave. As soon as Chu Kuangren finished speaking, Wang Tianteng instantly turned into a stream of light and dashed away. He wanted to escape. However, Chu Kuangren gently lifted his hand and an invisible wave of mind power spread out. No matter how fast Wang Tianteng was, how could he be faster than Chu Kuangren's mind power? In an instant, Wang Tianteng's body was frozen in midair. No matter how much he channeled his spiritual power, he could not break free. It was as if an invisible giant hand was squeezing him tightly. Stop. He's a sky pride of the Wang family, and the Wang family is an ancient orthodoxy. If you dare to kill him, as a subsidiary force of the Wang family, the Gu family's Boundary Emperor could no longer sit still and shouted. Boom! Wang Tianteng's body exploded into a bloody mist in the air. Chu Kuangren tilted his head and looked at the Gu family's Boundary Emperor. What do you mean if I kill him? You, the Gu family's Boundary Emperor looked at Chu Kuangren, so angry that he could not even form a complete sentence. You what? You can't even speak properly, how can you call yourself a Boundary Emperor? Chu Kuangren sneered and looked at the Spider Princess and Sima Run. When they saw him staring at them, their faces turned pale and they quickly hid behind their Boundary Emperors. It was obvious that they were scared out of their wits by Chu Kuangren. Fellow Daoist, the Snow Spider clan is willing to pay 150 kilograms of spiritual source. Please spare the Spider Princess. The same goes for the Sima family. Spiritual source was a spiritual chi crystallization that was a grade higher than soul stones and spiritual marrows. A kilogram of spiritual source was equivalent to 100 million top-tier soul stones. Boom, boom. However, as soon as the 2 Boundary Emperors finished speaking, runic swords suddenly appeared beside the Spider Princess and Sima Run. In the blink of an eye, the runic swords shot out and engulfed the Spider Princess and Sima Run in violent runic energy. Spider Princess. Sima Run. When the quasi-emperors of the Sima clan from the Snow Spider lineage saw this, their expressions could not help changing drastically. Top-notch geniuses were the most precious resources for any orthodoxy, but now, the geniuses of several orthodoxies had successively fallen here. The hearts of the quasi-emperors were bleeding. They glared at Chu Kuangren. If looks could kill, they would have already sliced Chu Kuangren into 1,000 pieces. Let's go. The few quasi-emperors gritted their teeth, turned around, and left with the remaining people. They did not dare to tangle with Chu Kuangren any longer. Otherwise, who knew how many more sky prides would die? It was especially so for the snow spider lineage. They had already lost a sub-emperor and an elite. They could not afford to suffer any more losses. Human, just you wait. I won't let this matter rest. The few quasi-emperors who left cursed inwardly. When most of the people had left, Chu Kuangren looked at Shang Qingxue, who was in the snow lotus, and activated his Eye of Revelation. Frost Daoist physique upgrading, progress, 94%, alright, tell me how you got here, Chu Kuangren asked. I'm not too sure myself. After I entered the Emperor's path, I was teleported to a space beneath the heavenly lake by a surge of spatial energy. Not long after I finished communicating with the sect leader, I fainted, and when I woke up, I was already on top of the icy heart lotus. Shang Qingxue explained. After Chu Kuangren heard that, he clicked his tongue in wonder. Looks like you're quite lucky to have been transported into the heavenly lake and coincidentally met with the appearance of the icy heart lotus. Your physique is very compatible with the icy heart lotus's attributes, and it actually managed to make it recognize you as its master, thus obtaining this opportunity. He had heard some rumors about the icy heart lotus. If it was someone else who had obtained this rare treasure, he might have tried to snatch it from them. However, since it was Shang Qingxue's, he would only be happy for her. After all, they were family. There was still some time before the icy heart lotus fused with Shang Qingxue and the frost Daoist physique upgrade, so Chu Kuangren did not mind waiting a little longer. After the snow spider and snow lion lineages had retreated, the barrier disappeared as well. The heaven lake was once again exposed to the eyes of countless people. Many people ran into the heaven lake in an attempt to fight for the opportunity. Heavenly pond energy, heavenly pond ice crystals. For most cultivators, these were very useful treasures. However, they all knew that the real opportunity lay in the heaven lake. This time, Tian Chi Mountain's unusual movements must be because of the changes in Tian Chi, that is where the real fortune lies. Only, I don't know why those great orthodoxies suddenly left. Could it be that they already obtained the fortune of the celestial pond? Let's go and try our luck. Some people came to the heaven lake with the idea of trying their luck and seeing if they could get lucky. As soon as they arrived at the heaven lake, they saw the huge ice heart snow lotus. However, at this time, the petals of the snow lotus were closed, like a flower bud that had yet to bloom. Ice heart snow lotus. Who would have thought that the ice heart snow lotus would actually appear here? But why? How many orthodoxies didn't take it away? I don't care. The treasure is right in front of me. It would be a waste not to take it. Everyone was ecstatic as they rushed toward Shuelyan. However, at this moment, a sharp sword chi slashed across the snow-covered ground, leaving a huge sword mark on the ground. A sage who was closest to the sword mark was so shocked that he broke out in cold sweat. Just now, if he had been a step faster, that sword chi would have been enough to tear him into two halves. Anyone who crosses the sword mark shall die. An indifferent voice came from not far away. Everyone looked at a large rock by the shore of the heaven lake. They saw a white-robed young man sitting on the edge of the lake with his back facing the crowd. His jet-black hair fluttered in the wind, giving off an otherworldly vibe. What a farce! One of the sages glanced at the ice heart snow lotus in the heaven lake and could not hold back his desire for it. He snorted and lifted his leg to cross the sword mark. However, when his right leg crossed the sword mark, a sword chi suddenly burst out from the sword mark before his left leg could even move. With a loud tearing sound, that sword chi tore the person who crossed the line in half right in front of everyone. There will always be idiots who want to test the limits. Don't tell me you guys are as stupid as him. Chu Kuangren's voice once again entered everyone's ears. At this moment, no one doubted his words anymore. Everyone looked at the sword mark on the ground as if they were looking at a line between life and death. They quickly took a few steps back, not daring to cross it. This young man seems to be the one who trespassed into the Heaven Lake. It seems that it's because of him that the ancient orthodoxies did not take the Ice Heart Snow Lotus away. That should be the case. But who exactly is this person? How can he force the ancient orthodoxies to retreat? Everyone looked at the back of the figure who was sitting by the lake with respect and fear in their eyes. A person who could force the ancient orthodoxies to retreat was definitely not someone they could fight against. At that moment, the snow lotus in the Heaven Lake suddenly swayed, and then its 12 petals slowly opened. Chapter 5:10. Snow lotuses swayed gently in the heavenly lake. A strange wave spread out, and a large amount of cold air swept out from the Heaven Lake. There was quite a bit of the Heaven Pond's energy mixed within. Although no one dared to get too close to the sword mark, they could still gather some of the Heaven Pond's energy from the periphery. It was not a wasted trip. The 12 petals of the snow lotus slowly unfurled, and Xianxia, who was inside, slowly opened her eyes. At that moment, she had completely absorbed the energy of the Ice Heart Lotus and completely refined it. Her original frost body had also undergone an unprecedented transformation, advancing into a supreme body of ways. At this point, there was another supreme Daoist physique among the 3,000 physiques in the world. Xianxia walked down from the snow lotus. Her steps were light as she stepped on the surface of the Heaven Lake. The lake that had never frozen for countless years was frozen in an instant. The sages nearby could not help but gasp when they saw this. What a terrifying chill. This woman can actually freeze the water of the Heaven Lake. While the crowd was still in shock, Xianxia had already walked in front of Chu Kuangren. She bowed and said, "Sect Master, I have already completely refined the snow lotus. I feel that my strength has increased by a lot." Not bad. Chu Kuangren used his eye of revelation to check on his opponent's status. He discovered that the other party's strength was now comparable to a 7th-step Holy King, and he had become the strongest among the Daoists in one leap. Of course, this was only for the Daoists before they entered the Emperor's Road. If Nangong Huang and the others had other opportunities, they might have made great progress. Xianxia looked at the snow lotus beside her. With a thought, the snow lotus rapidly shrank and turned into a white light that fused into her palm. A snow lotus mark appeared on the back of her hand. This frozen snowy lotus is a rare treasure. Not only can it enhance your Daoist physique, but it's also a frost attribute treasure that can amplify your frost chi. It can be used both offensively and defensively. If you use it well, it won't be any weaker than an emperor weapon. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Xianxia was also very happy. The opportunity that she had obtained this time was too great. Sect leader, can we leave now? Xianxia looked around. She had already obtained the biggest opportunity of fortune in the Heavenly Lake, so Chu Kuangren probably would not be interested in the rest. There's no hurry. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Let's wait a little longer. He seemed to be waiting for someone. Suddenly, his expression changed and he looked at the clouds in the distance. They're here. The snowstorm in the distance suddenly intensified. Streaks of light flew over, and a terrifying aura instantly enveloped the entire Tian Chi mountain. It was the aura of a quasi-emperor. Furthermore, it was not an ordinary quasi-emperor aura. This kind of aura was at the peak of quasi-emperors. You're not leaving? Are you waiting for us? A cold voice descended from the clouds, filled with a piercingly cold killing intent. A few figures slowly descended. The moment he landed, a majestic aura poured out like a flood, and the entire Tianqi mountain couldn't help but shake a few times. The Sima family's patriarch. And that burly man, with such a domineering aura, he must be the Snow Lion race's leader. There's also the Snow Spider clan's patriarch and the Gu clan's patriarch. They're here as well. Heavens! The leaders of the ancient orthodoxies are all here at the Seraphic Pond Mountain. Are they here to deal with this young man together? Isn't this a little too grand? What did this young man do? The sages knew that a huge battle was about to break out, so they couldn't help but retreat tens of miles. They looked curiously in the direction of the Tianqi mountain. How dare an outsider Skypride act so arrogantly in the Emperor's path? I have to say, you're very foolish. A middle-aged man with a green longsword at his waist looked at Chu Kuangren and said. He was the Sima family's patriarch. He was also a famous sword Dao cultivator in the Emperor's path. Tell me, how do you want to die? The person who spoke was the burly man next to the Sima family's patriarch. This burly man had thick white fur all over his body, and there was a domineering aura in his eyes. This person was the Snow Lion race's patriarch. I want to seal him in my spider web and slowly suck his blood essence dry. Such a good-looking man, his blood essence must be delicious too. A beautiful woman licked her lips with a fiery look in her eyes. She was the Snow Spider clan's patriarch, and her favorite thing was to suck the blood essence of good-looking men. However, even though she had seen countless good-looking men over the years, it was still her first time seeing someone of Chu Kuangren's caliber. Looks aside, his extraordinary aura was the most attractive thing about him. Beside the Snow Spider clan's patriarch, a middle-aged man holding a black spear did not say a word. However, he looked at Chu Kuangren as if he was looking at a dead man. That man was the Gu family's patriarch. The rulers of the four great ancient orthodoxies had personally arrived, and their terrifying boundary emperor aura enveloped the entire place. In the face of such a lineup, not many people in the entire emperor's path could resist, let alone the younger generation. Even the forbidden Skyprides could not escape unscathed. Sect leader, what should we do now? Shang Qingxue looked at the four boundary emperors in front of her with a solemn look in her eyes. Although she had obtained the icy lotus and improved tremendously, she was still not strong enough to face a boundary emperor. Not to mention a top-notch boundary emperor. Don't worry, it's just 4 boundary emperors. It's no big deal. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Back when the demonic realm descended, Chu Kuangren was not afraid of facing the clones of the 7 great demonic emperors, let alone a few boundary emperors. Chu Kuangren could dominate the outside world. But in the emperor's path, he could still dominate everything. That was his path to invincibility. Just. Chu Kuangren acted casually, but the boundary emperors in front of him raised their eyebrows in displeasure. I'd like to see what kind of ability you have to say something like that. The Sima clan head snorted and attacked first. With a slash of the long sword at his waist, a 1,000-meter-long silver-white sword ray was unleashed. The sword ray was accompanied by a blizzard that froze one's heart. More than half of the heavenly lake was frozen by that cold sword chi. Upon seeing that, Chu Kuangren unsheathed the descendant self-sword at his waist. With a gentle slash in the air, a purple sword ray was unleashed. The sword-based Daoist rhyme that surrounded it instantly suppressed the Sima clan head. Amidst the explosion, the Sima clan head was forced back a few hundred meters by that sword ray. He was shocked. This power, this aura. The exquisite 9 orifices sword heart. Oh, you can recognize the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart even before my Daoist physique transformation appeared. You're quite sharp. In the past, I've sparred with the Daoist of the sword tribe. He too possessed the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart. I can't believe there are 2 of them in the same generation. The Sima clan head had a solemn look in his eyes. The exquisite 9 orifices sword heart could greatly enhance one's sword Dao, and it also had a suppressive effect on other sword cultivators. Chu Kuangren's terrifying strength, coupled with his Daoist physique, made the Sima clan head feel troubled. Besides, he had a feeling that Chu Kuangren's exquisite 9 orifices sword heart was even more terrifying than the Daoist of the sword tribe. At least, he did not feel such pressure when he faced the Daoist of the sword tribe. So what if it's the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart? He's offended our 4 orthodoxies today. He won't walk out of the heavenly lake alive. Chapter 5:11. I don't care if he has the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart or not. Since he has offended our orthodoxies, he must die here. The Snow Lion tribe leader let out a low growl and unleashed his Boundary Emperor aura. A white lion silhouette that was formed from spiritual power charged towards Chu Kuangren in a domineering manner. Beast King's Fury. That was the Snow Lion tribe's emperor technique, and it was much more powerful than the White Lion's Heart technique that was cast by the Snow Lion tribe leader. As a Boundary Emperor, why are you using someone else's emperor technique? Where is your Dao? Chu Kuangren said calmly. He then raised his hand and gathered the spiritual power of the heavens and earth before he pointed a finger at the White Lion silhouette. It was the emperor technique, heart-piercing finger. The heart-piercing finger had struck the Daoist core. The Snow Lion tribe leader's expression changed, and his mind froze for a moment. The strength of the White Lion silhouette was also greatly weakened. By the time he recovered, Chu Kuangren's heart-piercing finger was already in front of him. He roared, and his already sturdy body suddenly grew in size. A terrifying ferocious chi surged out from his body. He threw a punch at the finger attack. However, that powerful force still sent him flying dozens of feet away. His arm trembled and blood flowed non-stop, and his bones were almost broken. I can't believe that a finger attack could cause such damage to my physical body. The Snow Lion tribe leader's Boundary Emperor body was very strong. It was a body that was specially cultivated, so it was enough to fight against a Boundary Emperor. This person's combat strength is so strong that we can't win against him alone. Let's attack together. The Sima clan head said. Before he came, he thought that this was a sure win, but now it seemed that things had gone beyond his expectations. Who would have thought that a young Heaven's Prideling would be able to suppress a quasi-emperor so easily? Attack! The Gu clan head also attacked. The spear in his hand streaked across the sky like a meteor, and a cold spear ray instantly locked onto Chu Kuangren. On the other hand, the Snow Spider tribe leader retreated dozens of feet away. As she raised her arm, spider webs spread out from her hand and quickly interweaved into a large web in the void. When the spear ray arrived, Chu Kuangren slashed out with his descendant self-sword. The sword clanged against the spear, producing a loud clanging sound. A majestic force with 2 completely different Daoist rhymes gushed out. The frozen surface of the heavenly lake instantly exploded, and countless ice shards swept in all directions like a storm. The perennial snow-covered heavenly lake also caused avalanches. Is that all your spear can do? The descendant self-sword in Chu Kuangren's hand vibrated, and an even more majestic sword chi gushed out from the blade. The Gu family's family head only felt an incomparably sharp energy rushing towards him. Retreat! The Gu family's patriarch's expression changed, and he retreated rapidly. As he retreated, a streak of sword chi swept past him and slashed into a snowy mountain in the distance. The Emperor Self Wang Tutu and said Ant, and a Emperor's T sect. Emperor Heavenly Spirit Snowtess was piercing Emperor's technique. The Tianqi mountain, which had snowstorms all year round, actually had a moment of clear weather. Inescapable net. At that moment, the Snow Spider tribe leader had already formed a giant web using her spiritual power and was about to engulf Chu Kuangren. The Snow Spider tribe's leader had formed a huge net with her spiritual power and was about to engulf Chu Kuangren. Break! Chu Kuangren yelled, and a sword chi slashed upwards. The sword chi landed on the huge net and suddenly exploded, turning into millions of fine sword chi. The huge net that blotted out the sky was immediately torn into pieces. Didn't you want to see my Dao? Then I'll show you. At that moment, the Snow Lion tribe leader roared as he charged towards Chu Kuangren. An extremely violent aura emanated from his body, and the blood and chi in his body were boiling. Every breath he exhaled was scorching hot, like a raging flame. The snow and wind that landed on his body melted away. He no longer looked like a snow lion, but a raging flaming lion. With every step he took, the entire Heavenly Lake Mountain shook. He took a total of 7 steps, and Heavenly Lake Mountain shook 7 times. In those 7 steps, he had crossed a few kilometers and arrived before Chu Kuangren. He then unleashed a punch. 7 steps killing fist. That punch caused the air to explode, and white cracks appeared in the void. An extremely powerful pressure instantly shrouded Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren did not retreat. Instead, he lowered his body into a horse stance and unleashed a punch of his own. He did not use any spiritual power in that punch. Instead, he purely used his supreme sage physique to attack. The 2 fists, one big and one small, collided with each other. The wind created by the fists formed an incomparably terrifying storm that swept out. Everything in the surroundings was destroyed. The sages who were watching from afar also felt the strong storm and activated their spiritual power to resist it. They were all amazed. The place where Chu Kuangren and the Snow Lion tribe's leader collided instantly caved in, and a huge crack appeared in the middle of Heavenly Lake Mountain as if it was about to split into 2 halves. How can this guy's physical body? The Snow Lion tribe's leader stared at Chu Kuangren with an indescribable shock in his eyes. He could clearly feel that Chu Kuangren did not use any spiritual power at all. All he used was pure physical strength. However, how could a sage's physical body be so terrifying? Is this your Dao? That's all you've got? Chu Kuangren said all of a sudden. That seemingly skinny and small body of his actually erupted with an incomparably violent surge of energy. Break! Not only did Chu Kuangren use his supreme sage physique this time, but he also used his supreme sage-level spiritual power as well. Terrifying energy gushed out like a torrent, and the bones in the Snow Lion tribe's leader's arm cracked and pierced through his flesh. Chu Kuangren's punch landed squarely on his chest. Boom! With a loud bang, the Snow Lion tribe's leader spat out a mouthful of blood mixed with minced meat. His chest caved in on the spot, and many of his bones were broken. His entire body flew out like a cannonball and landed on the ground. Just one move was enough to inflict serious damage on him. D****. The Snow Lion tribe's leader supported himself with both hands, wanting to continue fighting. However, a pale yellow rune condensed above him and turned into the shadow of a giant mountain. It then fell and pressed him to the ground. It was the mountain rune. Condensing the chi of the mountains and rivers for one's own use was similar to the human mountain stamp that Chu Kuangren had previously mastered. However, one was a technique, while the other was a rune. D****. The Snow Lion tribe's leader's expression changed. If he was at his peak, he could still break it. However, now that he had been heavily injured by Chu Kuangren's punch, it was extremely difficult for him to break the rune. A cat should just lie on the ground and listen to orders. Chu Kuangren said calmly, comparing the Snow Lion tribe's leader to a harmless kitten. That made the Snow Lion tribe's leader so angry that his eyes turned red. Not far away, the Snow Spider tribe's leader and the Gu clan's leader looked extremely grim. Obviously, the combat strength that Chu Kuangren had displayed was far beyond their imagination. How can such a skypride be born in the outside world? Even the forbidden skyprides are not as powerful as this guy. How terrifying! At that moment, a majestic emperor's aura suddenly appeared high up in the sky. Chapter 5:12 High up in the sky, the Sima clan head suddenly took out a golden longsword. Various runes were engraved on the sword, and a majestic aura emanated from it. This is the Emperor's aura. It's an Emperor weapon. Chu Kuangren narrowed his eyes. Brat, I'll show you the power of my Sima clan's Emperor weapon. The Sima clan head yelled as he swung the longsword in his hand. A beam of golden sword chi whizzed out like a giant golden dragon and swooped down towards Chu Kuangren. Wherever it went, the void cracked like a mirror, and streaks of white patterns spread out. You make it sound like I don't have an Emperor weapon, Chu Kuangren said. He then raised his hand and a golden halberd appeared. It was the Emperor weapon, the Empyrean Neptune's halberd. Chu Kuangren struck with his halberd, and it was like a raging ocean that shook the heavens and earth. The golden sword ray collided with the majestic torrential force. The collision of the two Emperor weapons was like 100,000 mountains crashing into each other. The terrifying impact caused the entire seraphic lake to crumble. The sages who were watching from the outside were pushed back dozens of kilometers by the terrifying impact as they looked in the direction of the seraphic lake in horror. This energy is the collision of the Emperor weapons. F***ck me, that guy has an Emperor weapon too. Even the ancient orthodoxies and ancient orthodoxies don't have many sovereign weapons. Moreover, those are the foundation of the orthodoxies. This guy actually has a sovereign weapon in his hands. How rich is the orthodoxies behind him? They actually let their chosen one carry a sovereign weapon? The collision of the Emperor weapons is too powerful. Don't get too close. The collision of the two Emperor weapons was extremely powerful. However, Chu Kuangren was clearly stronger than the Sima clan head, and the Emperor weapon that he could unleash was also more powerful. The torrential force from the Empyrean Neptune's halberd forcefully broke through the golden sword ray and landed on the Sima clan head's body. The Sima clan head's expression changed. Although he was a boundary emperor, he was still severely injured by the Emperor weapon's power. He was sent flying with blood spewing from his mouth. The golden imperial armament in his hand flew out of his hand. Oh no! The Sima clan head's expression changed slightly as he tried to summon the Emperor weapon back. However, right at this moment, a formless power of thought suddenly enveloped the imperial armament. The Sima family head summoning was simply useless. However, Chu Kuangren's figure flashed and reappeared in front of the Emperor weapon. He then reached out his hand and grabbed it. As if it was resisting Chu Kuangren, the Emperor weapon let out a dazzling golden sword ray that buzzed and trembled in Chu Kuangren's hand. Oh, you're quite stubborn. Surrender. Chu Kuangren let out a low growl as the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart's aura erupted along with the Supreme Sage's spiritual power. Soon, the imperial armament began to calm down. It no longer resisted. How could this be? Sima family head's expression changed in an instant. He felt that his connection with the sovereign weapon had been severed in an instant. Looks like you haven't gained the recognition of this Emperor weapon. You've only refined it a little, Chu Kuangren said. Indeed. If the Sima clan's head really managed to refine this Emperor weapon, Chu Kuangren would not be able to subdue this Emperor weapon even if he possessed the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart. The only explanation was that the Sima clan's head did not really refine this Emperor weapon. However, it was not surprising. Emperor weapons were stubborn and would not be easily refined. A cultivator who did not gain the recognition of an Emperor weapon could never become its true master. At most, he would only have the right to use it. D*****. The Sima clan's head glared at Chu Kuangren with hatred. The exquisite 9 orifices sword heart's advantage in swordsmanship was just too great. Especially when Chu Kuangren had unleashed the full potential of his Daoist physique to subdue an Emperor weapon in such a short time. Now that the Sima clan had lost their Emperor weapon, it was a huge loss for them. Let's go. The Gu clan's head made up his mind and turned to leave. Chu Kuangren was just too strong. Even with the 4 of them attacking him together, they could not gain the upper hand at all. Not only that, but the Snow Lion clan's leader was also severely injured. Now that Chu Kuangren still had an emperor weapon, it was even harder for them to gain the upper hand. If they did not leave now, they might even lose their lives here. At that thought, other than the Gu clan's head, even the Snow Spider clan's leader turned pale and ran away in fear. As for the Snow Lion clan's leader, he was still pinned to the ground by Chu Kuangren's Daoist mountain rune, unable to move. F*ck me. These B** stards did not even bring him along when they escaped. You want to leave now? Aren't you indulging in fantasy? Chu Kuangren chuckled. With a lift of his arm, an incredibly mysterious sword-based Daoist rhyme spread out. That Daoist rhyme shrouded in all directions, and 12 long pillars of sword chi suddenly formed between the heavens and the earth. A wave of terrifying sword chi instantly sealed off the space around them. This is the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart's Daoist physique transformation, 9 heaven sword prison. The Sima clan's head said solemnly. D***it, break. The Gu clan's head grabbed his spear and stabbed it into the void. The terrifying spear chi tore through the void like a dragon. Amidst the explosion, the spear chi landed on the void and instantly broke through the sword chi's seal. He tore a hole in the sword chi that filled the sky. It's a success. The Gu clan's head was delighted. However, at that moment, suddenly, a silver-white rune fell from the sky. An even more powerful sealing force erupted and sealed off the entire space. The Gu clan's head's body could not help but be frozen in mid-air. In that moment, the 9 heaven sword prison's opening was sealed again by the sword chi. I've said it before. It's too late for you to leave now. Chu Kuangren's voice rang in the Gu clan's head's ears. Then, a purple sword light suddenly erupted and completely engulfed him. Not long after, the crowd saw the Gu clan's head's body explode into a cloud of blood mist in the air. An ancient orthodoxy leader had fallen. That scene deeply shocked every cultivator at the scene. Run, run. After the Snow Spider clan's head broke through the spatial seal, she desperately tried to escape into the distance. However, just like the Gu clan's head, she could not escape at all. Chu Kuangren's mind power spread out and formed runic swords in the void, sealing off the Snow Spider clan's head's escape route. At that moment, Chu Kuangren had already dashed behind her. Don't come any closer. Sensing the chill that made her hair stand on end, the Snow Spider clan's head screamed in fear and transformed into her true form. Her originally beautiful skin was instantly shattered and turned into a gigantic spider with 8 arms covered in white fur. The spider let out a roar and waved its 2 forelimbs at Chu Kuangren. Die! Chu Kuangren held the Descendant Self sword and activated the heaven-slaying sword drawing technique. A dazzling sword ray descended from the sky and cut off the Snow Spider clan's head's forelimbs before landing on her body. The gigantic body was instantly split into 2 by the sword chi. A large amount of thick blood gushed out and dyed the snowy ground red. The Snow Spider clan's head was dead. There are still 2 left. Chu Kuangren looked at the Snow Lion clan's head who was pinned on the ground. With a thought, a gigantic runic sword suddenly formed above him. The runic sword fell to the ground like a meteor and ruthlessly pierced through the Snow Lion clan's head. The already heavily injured Snow Lion clan's head could not resist at all and died on the spot. Before the crowd could react, 3 of the leaders of the 4 great orthodoxies had already fallen. At that moment, all the onlookers around Sky Lake Mountain looked at Chu Kuangren in disbelief and awe. Chapter 5:13. You're the only one left. Chu Kuangren looked at the Sima clan head and said. Wait a minute. The Sima clan is on good terms with the swordsmen. If you kill me, the swordsmen will not let you off easily. The Sima clan head said loudly, wanting to use the swordsman's power to suppress Chu Kuangren. However, when Chu Kuangren heard the word swordsman, he sneered. Swordsman? What do you think will happen if the swordsman's Daoist and I meet? At that, the Sima clan head was speechless. Chu Kuangren possessed the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, and the swordsman's Daoist also possessed the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart physique. Based on the swordsman's Daoist's personality, he would never allow anyone to have the same qualifications as him. If these two met, a battle was bound to break out. Chu Kuangren was destined to become the swordsman's enemy. If that was the case, why should he care about the Sima clan head's threat? At that thought, the Sima clan head's face was filled with fear. Run! Since his threat was useless, the Sima clan head could not care less anymore and immediately fled. However, even the 3 boundary emperors in front of him could not escape death, let alone him. A spatial rune descended from the sky and instantly landed on the Sima clan head. At that moment, the Sima clan head's body was frozen in mid-air. Then, a dazzling purple sword ray rushed towards him. The Sima clan head could not resist at all and was instantly torn in half by the sword chi, dying on the spot. At that point, none of the 4 boundary emperors were spared. Outside Seraphic Pond Mountain, it was dead silent. Everyone looked at Chu Kuangren with disbelief and awe. This battle was enough to make Chu Kuangren famous in the Emperor's path. Why do I feel that this person's combat strength is even more terrifying than the Forbidden Sky Pride's? Yeah, from now on, the Emperor's path will have another demonic genius. I wonder who will be the one to claim the throne in the end. Outside Seraphic Pond Mountain, the sages discussed among themselves. After Chu Kuangren had killed the 4 boundary emperors, he kept their yin and yang rings. With a thought, he found a lot of good things inside. Other than the Sima clan head, who had given him a monarch weapon, the leaders of the other orthodoxies had also given him quite a lot of spiritual source stones. In total, these spiritual source stones weighed a few thousand jin, which was equivalent to hundreds of billions of high-grade spirit stones. In the outside world, many orthodoxies wouldn't even dare to think about this. Indeed, these ancient orthodoxies are truly filthy rich. Chu Kuangren licked his lips as his eyes gleamed. At the side, Shang Qingshue's gaze was a little strange as she said, "Sect leader, did you purposely let the people from the 4 orthodoxies go just now and lure the leaders of the 4 orthodoxies here? That way, you'll be able to obtain more treasures, right? What did you say? Do I look like such a black-bellied person to you?" Chu Kuangren said nonchalantly as he kept the items away. Absolutely. Shang Qingxue thought to herself. Alright, let's go. Chu Kuangren cleared his mind and left the Sky Lake Mountain. In an ancestral hall of the Sima clan. Wooden tablets were hung in the ancestral hall, and each tablet represented a member of the Sima clan. However, today, the wooden tablet that was hung at the highest point suddenly exploded. A disciple who was guarding the ancestral hall was shocked when he saw the flying wooden splinters. The clan head's wooden tablet has shattered. Something's happened to the clan head. The disciple was so shocked that his face turned pale. He immediately rushed out of the ancestral hall to report the incident. Not long after, a few extremely powerful boundary emperor auras were emitted from the depths of the Sima clan. These people were the strong cultivators of the older generation of the Sima clan. Who is it? Who dares to kill the Sima clan head? The Sky Lake Mountain. Our clan head went to Sky Lake Mountain to deal with an outsider Sky Pride, but how did he die so suddenly? How can an outsider Sky Pride do something like this? Investigate. Go and find out for me. The Boundary Emperor's voice reverberated throughout the hall. Meanwhile, the Sima clan's intelligence department quickly got to work and investigated everything that happened at Sky Lake Mountain. According to the Wang clan's fallen Sky Pride, Wang Tianteng, this person's name is Chu Kuangren. He came from the outside world and his combat strength is extremely terrifying. This person can kill a boundary emperor, so he's definitely a forbidden Sky Pride. He even has an emperor weapon. Not only that, but he also took our Sima clan's emperor weapon. The exquisite 9 orifices sword heart. I can't believe there's another exquisite 9 orifices sword heart besides Jian Daozi. What should we do now? The boundary emperors discussed countermeasures. Judging from the combat strength that Chu Kuangren had displayed, he was no longer someone that an ordinary boundary emperor could handle. Moreover, he even had an emperor weapon. Even if the Sima clan was an ancient orthodoxy with a strong foundation, they would still have to pay a heavy price to deal with such an existence. The Sima clan sky pride was gone, their clan head was gone, and their emperor weapon was gone. If they were to suffer any more losses, even an ancient orthodoxy would not be able to withstand it. However, it was impossible for them to give up on dealing with Chu Kuangren just like that. How could they let go of such a huge grudge just like that? Send a message to the swordsman clan and tell them that we have information about Chu Kuangren. I'm afraid Jian Daozi won't be able to sit still anymore. One of the boundary emperors said. The others' eyes lit up when they heard that. It was not a bad idea to let the swordsman clan deal with Chu Kuangren. Alright, let the swordsman clan deal with Chu Kuangren while we assist from the sidelines. We'll find an opportunity to take back the emperor weapon. After the boundary emperors finished their discussion, they sent a message to the swordsman clan. A day later, hundreds of millions of kilometers away. In the swordsman clan's territory. The swordsman clan leader was handling some internal affairs. However, at that moment, a golden sword ray flew from afar and landed in front of him, turning into a small golden sword. Oh, it's a message from the Sima clan. The Sima clan and the swordsman clan were separated by hundreds of millions of kilometers, but both of them were experts in swordsmanship, so they often interacted with each other. Strictly speaking, the Sima clan was still considered a subsidiary force of the swordsman clan. Due to the distance between the two clans, ordinary communication compasses could not be used. Hence, both clans had a special method of communication. The swordsman clan leader held the small golden sword in his hand, and a message instantly gushed out. The swordsman clan leader absorbed the message for a while. A strange look appeared in his eyes. The exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, the ability to kill a boundary emperor, and an emperor weapon. I can't believe there's someone like that among the sky prides of the outside world. He then sent the message about Chu Kuangren to Jian Daozi. Not long after, a figure flew over. It was a young man with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes. His figure was a little illusory, and it seemed like he was just a wisp of spiritual thought. This person has a grudge against me. The sacred green glaze lamp that I want is in his hands. I can't let this person live. Jian Daozi uttered the last 3 words with a murderous intent. The swordsman clan leader smirked. What a pity. It would be great if the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart could be used by the swordsman clan. In this world, the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart is all that is needed. The pinnacle of swordsmanship can only belong to me. Jian Daozi's figure gradually disappeared after he finished speaking. The swordsman clan leader smiled and said to the void, "Where are the shadow swordsmen?" Whoosh, whoosh, several pitch-black shadows came from all directions and turned into 3 mysterious swordsmen in black robes. The shadow swordsmen were the most mysterious troop of the swordsman clan. Their main function was assassination. Chapter 5:14. The shadow swordsmen were a hidden troop of the swordsman tribe. This troop only had one mission, and that was to assassinate cultivators or skyprides from other forces who posed a threat to the swordsmen. There were 3 shadow swordsmen summoned by the swordsman tribe leader this time, and each one of them was a top-notch expert. Your target is Chu Kuangren. He's strong enough to slay a boundary emperor. I don't care how you do it, but kill him, bring back his green glazed magic lamp, and hand it over to Jian Daozi, the swordsman tribe leader said. Yes. Upon receiving the order, the three of them turned into a black shadow and disappeared on the spot. After the three shadow swordsmen left, they arrived at a dense forest. "What do you guys want?" One of the sword guards took off his hood, revealing an old face. His figure was emaciated, and his eyes were deeply sunken. He looked extremely sinister. This person was called the Grudge Sword Guardsman, and he was considered a top-notch expert even among the shadow swordsmen. His strength was comparable to the rulers of some ancient orthodoxies. A person like him would be an honored guest of any orthodoxy no matter where he went, yet he was only a member of the shadow swordsmen. One could only imagine how terrifying the swordsmen were. In the past, we swordsmen have always fought our own battles, and this time is no exception. Let's kill Chu Kuangren on our own. Another sword guardsman said. His voice was calm and steady. Chu Kuangren can slay a boundary emperor. Mountain sword guardsman, are you really confident? The Grudge sword guardsman asked curiously. Even if I can't kill him, I'm confident that I can escape unscathed. This mountain sword guardsman was very confident in his own strength. Besides, he was also plotting something. Since Chu Kuangren possessed the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, if he could kill him, he would definitely be rewarded by the swordsman, and the benefits he would reap would be immense. He was not willing to share this credit with anyone else. Besides, the swordsman tribe leader had said that he only wanted the green glazed magic lamp. As for the other items, he did not mention them. In other words, the sword guardsman was free to do whatever he wanted with Chu Kuangren. How many treasures would a person who had killed a few ancient orthodoxies have? Just the amount of spiritual sources was enough to tempt anyone. Similarly, he also wanted to monopolize this benefit. If that's the case, then let's rely on our own abilities. The resentful sword guard had similar thoughts as the mountain sword guard. Then, the two of them looked at the last sword guard. Mystic sword guard, what do you want to do? Seniors, you've been in the shadow sword guard for a much longer time than me, and you're also more experienced than me. Let's do as you say. It was a woman's voice, with a hint of gentleness. One couldn't help but be curious about exactly what sort of peerless beauty a woman with such a voice was. Heh, Phantom Sword Guard, you must be joking. With your talent, you will definitely be stronger than us in the future. Joining the Shadow Sword Guard is just a form of training. However, since you've said so, we'll make the first move. If we fail, we'll discuss a countermeasure. Okay. The Mystic Blade Guard nodded. Then, the Mountain Sword Guard and the Grudge Sword Guard disappeared. The remaining Mei Sword Guards took off their hoods, revealing a charming and beautiful face. Her skin was delicate, her facial features were exquisite, and she had beautiful eyebrows. In particular, her pair of watery eyes carried a faintly discernible sense of gentleness. Both of you want to monopolize the credit? That's fine too. I'll let you two test Chu Kuangren's strength first. At that thought, the Mei Sword Guard's eyes flashed coldly. Chu Kuangren, there can only be one exquisite 9 orifices sword heart in this world, and that's Sir Daozi. Anyone who stands in the way of Sir Daozi's ascension to the pinnacle of Sword Dao must die. Very few people in the swordsmen knew that this Mei Sword Guard was Jian Daozi's passionate admirer. For Jian Daozi, she was willing to do anything. Originally, with her talent, she was considered one of the top sky prides in the swordsmen, second only to Jian Daozi. But for Jian Daozi's sake, she was willing to give up all of the glory that a chosen could enjoy. Instead, she threw herself into the darkness and became a shadow sword guard. She did everything she could for Jian Daozi, and helped him eradicate any and all chosen who might pose a threat to him. They say that the Shadow Sword Guard is a sword in the hands of the swordsman, and I'm willing to become the sharpest sword in Sir Daozi's hands. I'll eliminate everything for him. The Mei Sword Guard murmured before her figure turned into a black shadow and instantly disappeared. Sect leader, is there any news? Inside a tea house, Shang Qingxue was asking Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren shook his head and said, "No, I still can't contact anyone. Then we can only go to the Emperor Mountain. That's the end of the Emperor's Road, where all the Sky Prides will go." Shang Qingshui said. Not bad." Chu Kuangren nodded. He looked at the teacup in his hand and shouted, "Waiter, give me another cup of tea." "Sure thing." A waiter walked up and refilled Chu Kuangren's tea. "Are you two heading to Seven String City?" "Seven String City? What does that mean?" Chu Kuangren asked curiously. Don't you two know? Recently, an emperor weapon Guqin was discovered in Seven String City. A few great orthodoxies have been fighting over it, but no one has been able to make the Guqin recognize them as its master. Hence, they've held a banquet of 10,000 Guqin and invited all the Guqin masters in the world to see who's fated to gain the Guqin's recognition. The waiter had already refilled their teacups. Chu Kuangren's interest was piqued. An emperor weapon Guqin? That's right. Rumor has it that when this Guqin first appeared, dark clouds covered the sun, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled for 3 days and 3 nights. That's really interesting. Chu Kuangren's interest was piqued. Seven String City? That's worth a visit. Waiter, may I know which way to Seven String City? Just head south from here. You can also take an immortal boat to a nearby city. The guests I've received these past few days are all going to Seven Flux City, so I thought the two of you were also going there, the waiter said with a smile, then left. Guqin. Sect leader, I remember you know how to play the Guqin, right? I know a thing or two. Chu Kuangren nodded. He knew the Emperor technique, the 8 celestial demonic chords. As for his level in the Guqin Dao, it was just so. There were not many people in Firmament Star who could compare to him. Let's finish this cup of tea and make a trip to Seven String City. Chu Kuangren thought. Suddenly, he raised his eyebrows as he sensed a strange fluctuation in the air. Not far away from him, a figure in a black robe whose face could not be seen was slowly walking towards him. With every step this person took, the atmosphere became more solemn. By the time he arrived in front of Chu Kuangren, the surrounding air had become extremely heavy. Everyone else in the tea house was already lying on the ground, staring at the black-robed figure in horror. "You're Chu Kuangren?" The black-robed figure came before Chu Kuangren and asked. "You already know the answer." Chu Kuangren calmly picked up his teacup and took a sip. "Looks like you found the right person. I'm the Sword Tribe's Mountain Sword Guard. I'm here to kill you." Chapter 5:15. I'm the Mountain Sword Sentinel of the Swordsman Tribe. I'm here to kill you. As soon as the word kill you was uttered, an earth-shattering murderous intent enveloped a 10-kilometer radius. Some of the cultivators in the tea house could not withstand the murderous intent and fainted one after another. Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, sat still as he looked at the black-robed man before him. Activating his eye of revelation, he had a good grasp of the man's strength and background. "I heard that there's a troop within the swordsman tribe called the Shadow Swordsmen who specialize in all kinds of assassinations. However, how can you walk up to your target in broad daylight and yell about killing him be considered an assassination? Are you a peerless expert, or are you out of your mind? Kill me? I don't think you're here to kill me. You're here to die." Chu Kuangren said calmly. The Mountain Sword Sentinel did not say a word and immediately attacked. A pitch-black broadsword that looked like half a door appeared in his hand. As soon as the broadsword appeared, a majestic sword chi instantly erupted, shattering the table in front of Chu Kuangren and Shang Qingshui. Sword chi swirled around Chu Kuangren's body, forming an invisible barrier that blocked off all the incoming sword chi. "You do have some cultivation." The Mountain Sword Sentinel's eyes lit up as he unleashed another slash. That slash was extremely aggressive. Apart from spiritual power, it also contained an incredibly powerful mountain river earth qi that rushed towards Chu Kuangren. However, Chu Kuangren was still calm in the face of such power. Trying to kill me just like that? What a joke. The descendant self-sword at his waist revealed half of its blade, and an incredibly cold purple sword ray shot out. The terrifying sword ray tore through the oncoming mountain river sword qi. The mountain sword sentinel used the broadsword in his hand as a shield and blocked the attack. The purple sword qi instantly unleashed an incredibly powerful force that instantly sent his opponent flying dozens of kilometers away, crashing into a mountain in the distance. Boom! Clouds of dust rose from the mountain range. The heavy aura that shrouded the entire area also dissipated in an instant. The cultivators in the tea house immediately left the scene, not daring to stay any longer. Oh my god, that's the shadow swordsman of the swordsman tribe. Just who in the world is this fella? To think that the sword race would send out the shadow sword guards to kill him. As the cultivators in the tea house fled the scene, they too began to suspect Chu Kuangren's identity. The shadow sword guard was a secret troop of the sword race. No one knew how many people there were in this troop or how strong they were. However, everyone knew that anyone who was targeted by the shadow sword guards was an enemy of the sword race. It was difficult for them to have a good ending. The sword race was one of the most horrifying powers within the Emperor's Road. You are indeed very strong. With such sword qi, it is no wonder that you have the same exquisite 9 orifices sword heart as the Daoist. The voice of the mountain sword guards came from the mountain range. He soared into the sky, and a majestic aura of mountains and rivers erupted from his body. The pitch-black broadsword in his hand was flowing with mysterious Daoist rhymes. The mountains and rivers within a radius of 10,000 kilometers trembled at the same time. Chu Kuangren could clearly feel that a large amount of earth qi was gathering towards the mountain sword guards. This person was transforming earth qi into sword qi. This kind of sword Dao that manipulated earth qi was very advanced. Chu Kuangren squinted his eyes. This strength is not much weaker than the Sima clan leader. This made him a little interested in the sword race. If a sword guard could have such strength, then how strong was the sword race as a whole? While Chu Kuangren was deep in thought, the mountain sword guard had gathered the earth qi within a radius of 10,000 kilometers and condensed it on the black broadsword in his hand. 9 tiers of mountain river, slash. With a low roar, the mountain sword guard slashed out with his sword. The majestic sword qi intertwined in the void and formed a giant yellow sword shadow. Within the sword shadow, the scenery of mountains and rivers changed continuously, and its majestic aura instantly locked onto the space within a 10-kilometer radius around Chu Kuangren. "Qingxue, stand behind me," Chu Kuangren said calmly. Then, the descendant self-sword on his waist slashed out, and a domineering sword ray swept out with a destructive momentum. The giant sword shadow immediately shattered with a boom in front of the purple sword ray. The magnificent scenery of mountains and rivers dissipated like bubbles. A single slash, shattering mountains and rivers. So powerful. The mountain sword guard's sword shadow was shattered, and the terrifying impact sent him flying a few hundred meters away. His pupils shrank slightly, and he revealed a serious expression that he had never seen before. He waved the broadsword in his hand, and the mountain river sword shadows appeared one after another. As if the earth qi around him was being drawn, it continuously gathered towards him. 9 tiers of mountain river, ultimate slash. The mountain sword guard waved his broadsword and unleashed 9 slashes in a row, and the power of each slash was stronger than the previous one. When the 9th slash came, the power of the previous 8 slashes seemed to have been stacked together. When the sword slashed out, it was so powerful that even the void was shaken. The entire sky looked like it was about to collapse. This was the mountain sword guard's strongest slash, and it was also his mountain river Dao. Now this slash has some power. Chu Kuangren raised his hand slightly, and the 3 Daoist physique transformations of the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart were activated. The supreme foundation level within his body bloomed with boundless light. With a slash, the majestic sword ray covered the entire sky. The mountain river sword chi was once again torn apart by the purple sword ray. This time, the mountain sword guard was sure that he was no match for Chu Kuangren. He then channeled the spiritual power within his body and turned into a stream of light to escape. Just when Chu Kuangren was about to give chase, he felt a terrifying suction force coming from the ground, tightly binding his feet. Oh, this is Earth Chi. It's the sword chi from earlier. Chu Kuangren realized that the mountain sword guard's shattered sword chi did not dissipate. Instead, it drilled into the ground and turned back into Earth Chi to trap Chu Kuangren. It had to be said that this method was indeed quite brilliant. At the very least, it would have a pretty good effect when used against other quasi-emperors. This little trick might work on others, but it's a shame that you're facing me. Chu Kuangren took a step forward, and the sword chi that kept rising from the ground was forcefully stomped into nothingness. Then, his spiritual thoughts gushed out and instantly locked onto the mountain sword guard's position. As a member of the Shadow Sword Guards, the mountain sword guard's combat strength was very high. Not only that, but every Shadow Sword Guard had specialized body techniques as well. He turned into a black shadow and dashed into the distance. Countless cultivators could not even catch a glimpse of the mountain sword guard. However, they still could not escape from Chu Kuangren's mind power. Trying to escape just because you can't beat me? Nothing in this world is that easy. Chu Kuangren's invisible mind power interweaved into lines of mysterious runes in the void, blocking the mountain sword guard's path. He took a step forward. Similarly, no one could detect Chu Kuangren's movement. When he reappeared, he was already standing in front of the mountain sword guard. Die! His cold voice was like the voice of the Grim Reaper. Lines of mysterious runes interweaved into swords, turning into a sword net that enveloped the mountain sword guard. The runic swords were like rain that never stopped. The mountain sword guard defended with all his might, and a defensive boundary emperor weapon appeared on his body. But even so, he still suffered quite a bit of injury. In the end, he managed to block all the runic swords. Before he could even breathe a sigh of relief, a blue rune suddenly appeared on top of his head. On the rune, fine electric arcs danced. Emperor Grade, Thunder Talisman. Chapter 5:16. The Emperor Grade Thunder Talisman appeared. The azure thunder talisman floated above Chu Kuangren's head. Then, a ferocious thunder dragon emerged from it. Its majestic aura enveloped the mountain sword sentinel. What? What is this? Is this a heavenly tribulation? The mountain sword sentinel was terrified. He wanted to escape, but the thunder dragon had already landed. The violent power of lightning invaded every corner of the mountain sword sentinel's body in an instant. Under the paralyzing effect of the lightning, he could not even let out a scream. After 2 to 3 breaths, the lightning dissipated, leaving only a charred corpse on the ground. Chu Kuangren grabbed the yin and yang ring from the mountain sword sentinel. After a quick search, he found a communication compass inside. Before he could say anything, the communication compass began to move on its own. He channeled his spiritual power into it and connected to the communication compass. Mountain Sword Sentinel, how's it going? A middle-aged man's voice came from the communication compass. Since you're able to contact the Mountain Sword Sentinel, and judging from your tone, you must be one of the higher-ups of the swordsmen, right? Chu Kuangren smiled as he held the communication compass. The voice on the other end of the communication compass was silent for a while. Then, the voice spoke again. You're Chu Kuangren, right? Although it was a question, the person's tone was very firm. That's right, it's me. I'm the swordsman tribe leader. Another explosive news came from the communication compass. Chu Kuangren smirked. Oh, What a coincidence. If you're really the swordsman tribe leader, then I have something to tell you. What is it? Are you going to beg for mercy? The swordsman tribe leader asked. To him, no one would not be afraid of such a huge force like the swordsman tribe. Moreover, Chu Kuangren was just a sky pride from the outside world, and the Black Heaven sect was even more unknown. It could be said that they had no one to rely on in the Emperor's path. No, I just want to tell you that if you want to kill me in the future, please send someone more capable. Don't bring out these small fries to embarrass yourselves. If you want to kill me personally, that's fine too. But please write your will and prepare a coffin. I only care about killing you, not burying you. After Chu Kuangren said that, the other side went silent again. You are declaring war on the sword race. One could tell from the tone of the sword race's clan leader that he was starting to get a little angry. After so many years, this was the first time someone had dared to speak to the sword race leader in such a manner. Declare war? Idiot, the war has already started. As soon as Chu Kuangren finished speaking, the sword chi in his hand surged and the communication compass was instantly shattered into pieces. Some communication compasses were equipped with a positioning function. Carrying it by his side would undoubtedly expose his whereabouts at any time. Let's go. Chu Kuangren said to Xianxia. When the two of them passed by the tea house, they left dozens of spiritual sources behind. Waiter, take it as compensation for your tea house. Thank you, my lord. Thank you, my lord. The waiter was moved to tears. He packed up his things and quickly ran away. Meanwhile, thousands of kilometers away, there was a pair of eyes locked onto the area where Chu Kuangren and the mountain sword guards were battling. It was an old man wrapped in a black robe. As expected, this man's strength cannot be underestimated. Unexpectedly, the mountain sword guards were killed before they could even force him to take out his imperial armament. Looks like I can't go head-on against this guy. I'll need to make some preparations. That old man was one of the 3 sword guards that came to kill Chu Kuangren, the grudge sword guard. After witnessing Chu Kuangren's combat strength, he knew that he could not defeat Chu Kuangren with his strength alone. However, that did not mean he was out of ideas. On the other side, in the swordsman tribe. The swordsman tribe leader was so angry that his face turned green when he received Chu Kuangren's message. Let's fight. Very well, it's been a long time since someone dared to fight the swordsman tribe. I'd like to see how you're going to fight the swordsman tribe. The swordsman tribe leader's eyes flashed with a cold light. The swordsman tribe was a huge clan with a deep heritage that was not something the ancient orthodoxies could compare to. They were the swordsman tribe that had been passed down from ancient times and had accumulated countless trump cards. How could a sky pride from the outside world do anything to them? Seven-Chord City. This was a large city in the Emperor's path. Many cultivators came and went in the city, making it very lively. Especially in recent days, there was an endless stream of cultivators coming and going. The most unique thing about Seven-Chord City was that it was home to the most outstanding musical Dao cultivators on the Emperor's path. Seven-Chord referred to the 7 strings on the guqin. Having 7 chord in its name also represented the number of musical Dao cultivators in this city. And today, a man and a woman arrived outside Seven-Chord City. Their faces were covered in a faint spiritual light, making it impossible to see their faces clearly. Only their auras were extraordinary, especially the young man who walked in front. His aura was extraordinary, as if he could become an immortal at any moment. These two were Chu Kuangren and Xianxia, who had come to take a look after hearing that a grand event was happening in Seven-Chord City. There were many cultivators on the streets of Seven-Chord City. Among them, there were many experts as well. Besides that, a large portion of the cultivators were holding various kinds of musical instruments in their hands. From time to time, beautiful music could be heard from the restaurants on both sides of the street, delightful. Compared to other cities where cultivators gathered, Seven-Chord City had a more elegant atmosphere. Many of the cultivators here had a carefree temperament. Sect leader, this Seven-Chord City looks extraordinary. It was Shang Qingshue's first time seeing a cultivator city like this, and she could not help but be amazed. Indeed, it's quite interesting. After that, the two of them found an inn and stayed there for the time being. At the same time, they also wanted to find out more about this place. Soon, Chu Kuangren understood the basic structure of Seven-Chord City. There were indeed many cultivator forces in Seven-Chord City, but to Chu Kuangren, most of them were not worth mentioning. The only one worth paying attention to was the Seven-Chord Guqin Guild. The Seven-Chord Guqin Guild was an organization formed by the musical Dao forces in Seven-Chord City. There were 3 guild leaders, and each guild leader represented an ancient orthodoxy that specialized in music. They were the Sea Clan, the Illusory Sound Sect, and the Hopeless Sound Sect. These 3 forces originated from ancient times and were extremely powerful. As for the rumored emperor weapon that had recently appeared, these 3 forces took turns to keep it. They would only bring it out when the myriad zither banquet began. When that time came, all the musical Dao cultivators would compete to see who would be able to make it recognize them as its master. When the emperor weapon appeared, dark clouds covered the sun and thunder rumbled for 3 days straight. It seems that this emperor weapon is not bad. I have the 8 celestial demonic cords, and the Guqin that I used before has been damaged. Now that I'm missing another Guqin, perhaps I can fight for it. Chu Kuangren murmured. However, fighting for an emperor weapon was not something that could be achieved just by thinking about it. Whether or not one could successfully obtain an emperor weapon still depended on whether or not the emperor weapon recognized them. Hence, great sect leader Chu, who had been slacking on his musical Dao for quite some time, decided to revise his skills. At the same time, he wanted to find out how many musical Dao cultivators in Seven-Chord City were capable of fighting him for the emperor weapon. Chapter 5:17. 2 days later, Chu Kuangren had thoroughly practiced the 8 celestial demonic cords. After becoming a sage, his soul had been transformed by a large amount of purple qi, greatly increasing his comprehension ability. Coupled with the support of the meditative clarity attribute, now that he was revisiting the 8 celestial and demon cords, he had a new understanding of this emperor technique, and his realm in the Zither Dao had risen to another level. It's time to find out what kind of powerful musical Daoist cultivators there are in 7 chords. Chu Kuangren murmured. As for this matter, he left it to Shang Qingxue to collect information for him. She should have some results by now. After calling Shang Qingxue over, she indeed collected a lot of information. Li Changyin, a sky pride of the illusory sound sect's younger generation. Skilled in musical instruments such as guqin and flute. She was once hailed as a rare genius of the illusory sound sect, Ji Xiaoyao, the most outstanding sky pride of the Sea clan. Skilled in musical Taoism, especially the Sea clan's famous song, Song of Righteousness, Yang Shiyun, the daughter of the Hope Sound sect. Skilled in musical Taoism as well. Her cultivation has reached the 7th step Great Sage realm and can challenge sage rulers. Chu Kuangren looked at the information Shang Qingxue had collected and grinned. Not bad. By the way, sect leader, I've just received news that Yang Shiyun of the Hope Sound sect is planning to meet her friends at the Cloudy View Pavilion before the banquet of 10,000 musical Daoist. Should we go and have a look? Shang Qingxue said expectantly. Sure. Chu Kuangren nodded. The Cloudy View Pavilion. It was the largest and most elegant restaurant in Seven-Chord City. Whenever a musical Daoist master wanted to meet his friends with the Guqin, he would usually choose this place. Tonight, many musical Daoist cultivators had come to the Cloudy View Pavilion. Chu Kuangren and Shang Qingxue had arrived as well. However, they were stopped just as they were about to enter. I'm sorry, but Goddess Yang has already reserved the entire Cloud Viewing Pavilion. You'll need an invitation if you want to enter. A restaurant staff member who was serving the cultivators at the entrance said apologetically. Chu Kuangren could not help but glare at Shang Qingxue, as if saying, "Why do you need an invitation?" Shang Qingxue clasped her hands together and said, "I'm sorry, sect leader. What do we do now?" Chu Kuangren rubbed his chin as he looked at the brightly lit cloud pavilion, feeling a little troubled. Was he going to force his way in? It wasn't appropriate. Just as Chu Kuangren was deep in thought, two figures slowly walked towards him from afar. They were a man and a woman. When the female cultivator saw Chu Kuangren's silhouette, she suddenly revealed an uncertain expression. This figure, this aura, could it be? The female cultivator seemed to have thought of something, and her mind shook. Beside her, the handsome young man could also see Chu Kuangren's back and frowned slightly. "Yao Rao, do you know that person?" the young man asked. That female cultivator was quite famous in the Firmament Star. She was the Sky Pride who had challenged Chu Kuangren before, Feng Yaorao. I wonder if he's the person I'm thinking of. Feng Yaorao walked forward with anticipation in her eyes. At this time, Chu Kuangren was still thinking about how to get into the Cloud View Pavilion. Looking at the cultivators coming and going, he had a malicious look in his eyes. Otherwise, he could secretly snatch 2 invitations? Fellow cultivator Chu? Just then, Feng Yaorao's voice came from behind Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren turned around and saw Feng Yaorao. A hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. "You're that brother Feng Yaorao?" He had some impression of Feng Yaorao. However, he had forgotten her name. He could not recall it even after thinking for a while, so he could only refer to her as fellow cultivator. The corner of Feng Yaorao's mouth twitched when she heard that. She looked at him with a hint of bitterness in her eyes. "It really is fellow Daoist Chu. I can't forget you, fellow Daoist Chu. I didn't expect fellow Daoist Chu to not even remember my name." Beside her, the handsome young man's expression froze for a moment. The man that Feng Yaorao could not forget? The young man looked at Chu Kuangren with hostility, but he quickly hid it. However, Shang Qingxue, who was beside Chu Kuangren, noticed it and looked at the young man with a pitiful gaze. "Sigh, I hope this guy is smart enough not to provoke the sect leader. Otherwise, I can only pray for my own good. Cough cough, I didn't expect to meet you here, brother Feng. What a coincidence." Chu Kuangren coughed twice to hide his embarrassment. "My name is Feng Yaorao. I hope you don't forget me, brother Chu. By the way, are you here for Lady Yang's banquet too?" Feng Yaorao said. "That's right. It's just a shame that we don't have an invitation," Chu Kuangren said helplessly. "I see. I do have one here. Why don't you give it to brother Chu?" Feng Yaorao took out an invitation and said. Beside her, the handsome young man suddenly said, "Yaorao, there's no need to go through so much trouble. I'm friends with Lady Yang, so your 2 friends can come with us. If it's someone brought by Li Daozi, then it won't be a problem." The restaurant staff immediately said with a flattering smile. It was obvious that he knew who this young man was and that he was of high status. Chu Kuangren activated his eye of revelation and glanced at the young man. Li Changyin, a Daoist from the Illusory Sound sect. "Oh, it's him." Chu Kuangren had a look of realization. Li Changyin was very famous in Seven Chord City. He was known as the Illusory Sound sect's once-in-a-lifetime genius. With Li Changyin's help, Chu Kuangren and Shang Qingxue entered the cloudy pavilion. Lady Yang wants to meet friends through the Guqin. This is a rare occasion. Yeah, I can't miss out on such a grand event. Not only are there to listen to Lady Yang's heavenly music, but there are also people who want to see her beauty. I won't hide it from you. I have the same intention. Inside the cloudy pavilion, many music Dao cultivators had gathered. When Chu Kuangren and the others entered, many cultivators turned to look at them. However, Chu Kuangren's face was shrouded in a spiritual glow, so they could not see him clearly. Hence, the crowd did not pay any attention to him. Instead, they were looking at Li Changyin, who was beside him. "Yo, Li Daozi is here. Li Daozi, how have you been?" Li Daozi's presence really adds a lot of color to this banquet. Come, take a seat." Everyone was very respectful to Li Changyin, and many of them were trying to curry favor with him. Some of the female Guqin players looked at the handsome Li Changyin with a glimmer in their eyes. Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, had become a foil. This was a novelty to Chu Kuangren. In the past, he was always the center of attention no matter where he went, but now he was suddenly ignored, which made him feel a little strange. He could not help but lament. So this is how it feels to be ignored. On the side, Li Changyin was very pleased with the compliments and said with a faint smile, "Come, everyone, let me introduce to you. This is my friend Feng Yaorao, fellow Daoist Feng. As for the two beside her, why don't the two of you take off your mask and introduce yourselves to everyone?" As Li Changyin spoke, everyone looked at Chu Kuangren and Shang Qingxue. "There are so many people here, but only the two of you are being secretive. Isn't that a little too disrespectful?" "Indeed, it was my oversight." Chu Kuangren smiled and the spiritual glow on his face dissipated. Chapter 5:18. My apologies, it was an oversight on my part. Chu Kuangren smiled and removed the spiritual glow from his face. The moment the spiritual glow dissipated, there was a moment of silence. Everyone stared blankly at Chu Kuangren for a few seconds. The eyes of the female zither players especially lit up. "Master, you look like a painting. You must be a deity." "I've been composing a song recently, and it's dedicated to praising the deities in the heavens. However, I've been lacking some inspiration, but now it seems like I have it. I can't believe there's such an extraordinary person in this world." Even Li Changyin was stunned. He had asked Chu Kuangren to remove the spiritual glow from his face, but he did not expect Chu Kuangren to have such an earth-shattering appearance. The moment the spiritual glow disappeared, Chu Kuangren had completely stolen his limelight. At that moment, he finally understood why Feng Yaorao could not forget Chu Kuangren so much. If he were a woman, he would not be able to forget Chu Kuangren as well. "May I know what your name is, master? Which orthodoxy are you from? What kind of songs do you specialize in?" The female cultivators who had been staring at Li Changyin could no longer sit still. They stood up and asked Chu Kuangren. They could still maintain their composure when facing Li Changyin. However, when facing someone of Chu Kuangren's level, their composure could only go to hell. If they did not make a move now, someone else would beat them to it. Chu Kuangren was calm in the face of the passionate female cultivators. He was very familiar with it. His elegant demeanor made the female cultivators even more tempted. As for the other cultivators who were watching from the side, they could not help but feel jealous. They could not wait to kick Chu Kuangren away and take his place. At that moment, the ceiling of the Cloudy View Pavilion suddenly opened, and a beam of moonlight shone in. Under the moonlight, a woman in a long white dress and holding a zither slowly descended. The woman had a graceful figure, exquisite facial features, and a cold aura. Like the bright moon, she gave off a feeling that she was unreachable. The eyes of the cultivators present lit up when they saw her. "Goddess Yang is here. The zither she's holding must be one of the Hope Sound sect's 7 great zither, the water moon. Not bad, Fairy Yang is finally here." Yang Shiyun landed on a high platform in the Yunxian Pavilion, looked around, and then bowed. "Greetings, fellow Daoists. I've invited all of you here today mainly because I've been inspired recently and I've composed a song. I'd like all of you to give it a listen." "Huh, Fairy Yang's new song, I'm looking forward to it." "Yeah. Sect Master. Sect Leader. Just as Chu Kuangren was about to find a place to sit down and enjoy the music, Shang Qingxue, who was beside him, suddenly tugged at Chu Kuangren's sleeve and pointed somewhere. Chu Kuangren looked over and was stunned for a moment. It's Murong Xian. Not far away from Chu Kuangren was a man sitting on a seat. This man was none other than Murong Xian. The other party must have just entered. Otherwise, there was no way he would not have noticed Chu Kuangren. This guy, he's actually here. Chu Kuangren was just about to walk up to him and ask him about his recent situation. However, Shang Qingxue pulled him back again. Sect leader, something isn't right. What happened? Look at Murong Xian and Yang Xiyun. Both of them seem to be having that kind of relationship. When Chu Kuangren heard that, he took a closer look as well. He realized that there was indeed something wrong with both of them. Yang Xiyun was on the stage while Murong Xian was below. The two of them were separated by more than 10 people, but they kept looking at each other with a dubious look in their eyes. When Yang Xiyun, who seemed to be high and mighty, saw Murong Xian, her eyes were filled with tenderness. This Murong Xian kid, looks like he's going to find a girlfriend soon. Chu Kuangren said in amazement. He was not in a hurry to go up and disturb the other party. Shang Qingxue, who was beside him, was also very surprised. I've been collecting some information about Yang Xiyun for the past few days. According to the information, he's a very cold and aloof person. Apart from his musical Dao, he has nothing else. I can't believe that Murong Xian managed to win him over. Not bad, Murong Xian. Qingxue, if Murong Xian and Yang Xiyun become Daoist partners, what kind of betrothal gift do you think the Black Heaven sect should give him? Ugh, sect leader, you're thinking too far ahead. We haven't even gotten anything done yet. Shang Qingxue rolled her eyes at the side. Besides Chu Kuangren and Shang Qingxue, the others had also noticed Yang Xiyun and Murong Xian. Some of the male cultivators could not help but frown. Who's this guy? Why is Goddess Yang staring at him? D****, don't tell me Goddess Yang's heart already belongs to someone? All the male cultivators were indignant. To them, Yang Xiyun was the goddess of 7 Flux City. Now that their goddess heart seemed to have been stolen by an unknown outsider, how could they tolerate that? At that moment, on the stage, Yang Xiyun began to play her newly composed song. A beautiful melody instantly filled the air, and the sound of her guqin reverberated with a sense of joy and affection. In an instant, the crowd felt a surge of sweetness in their hearts. Yang Xiyun's musical Dao had reached a very high level to be able to move the crowd's emotions with her guqin music. It was not wrong to call her a musical Dao grandmaster. This song is amazing. It's definitely the best song I've ever heard. Goddess Yang's musical skills have improved again. After the song ended, the crowd looked at Yang Xiyun who was on the stage in awe. They saw that she was looking at Murong Xian, who was below the stage, with an indescribable tenderness in their eyes. Coupled with the affectionate tune from earlier. The male cultivators felt their hearts shatter. Holy **T, how is this supposed to be a musical meeting? This is obviously a large-scale public display of dog food. She's basically luring the dogs here to be slaughtered. Chu Kuangren shook his head and lamented as he watched from the side. Goddess Yang, this song is very different from the past. I wonder why. At that moment, Li Changyin suddenly stood up and asked, unable to sit still any longer. What he said was also what everyone wanted to know. When Yang Xiyun heard this, she seemed to have thought of something and a rare smile appeared on her face. I met someone not long ago, and then I was inspired and composed this song. Perhaps this is the resonance between people and music, and it was inspired by my feelings. Upon hearing that, the crowd could almost confirm it. Yang Xiyun had definitely fallen into the river of love. Otherwise, why would she suddenly compose such an affectionate song? Goddess Yang, I wonder if the person you're talking about is this brother over here. At that moment, another young man stood up and pointed at Murong Xian. When Yang Shiyun saw this, her face turned slightly red. She then smiled and said, "This is my savior, Murong Xian, fellow Murong." She did not say it out loud, but from her expression, it was obvious. With the addition of the word savior, the crowd could already imagine dozens of scenarios of a hero saving a damsel in distress. Everyone, today is a musical meeting. Now that I've finished my performance, I wonder if anyone would like to come up and show me. Yang Shiyun smiled, walked down the stage, and sat down next to Murong Xian. This scene made the crowd even more jealous. However, this was Yang Shiyun's personal matter. They were not related to Yang Shiyun, so it was not their place to say anything. Chapter 519. Yang Shiyun and Murong Xian sat together, whispering into each other's ears as if they were very close. When the others saw that, they were very annoyed. One by one, they went up onto the stage to showcase their guqin skills, hoping to attract Yang Shiyun's attention and win her heart back. Good, good. This high mountain tune is really profound. Violinist Lin's skill has improved by another level. One of the musicians walked down from the stage and looked towards Yang Shiyun's direction. However, she only glanced at him out of politeness before she turned around and continued her conversation with Murong Xian. That musician was very annoyed, but there was nothing he could do. Not far away, Chu Kuangren, Shang Qingxue, and Feng Yaorao were sitting at a table. "Brother Chu, what do you think of musician Lin's performance just now?" Feng Yaorao asked casually. She simply wanted to talk to Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren was silent for a while before he said, "How should I put it? It was alright, I guess." When he said that, Shang Qingxue, who was beside him, had been paying attention to the changes in Chu Kuangren's expression. When she saw that he was silent for a while before he answered, she could basically conclude that the sect leader did not even listen to what he said just now. In fact, it was almost the same. Other than Yang Shiyun, who was at the beginning, the others' guqin skills were not worth his attention at all. It was too rough. He could not understand why these people would cheer so passionately. Was that guqin music that nice to listen to? However, he also understood that his cultivation realm was not on the same level as these people, so he could not use his own standards to judge others. Hence, he did not make any excessive comments and only said that it was alright. That was already the most lenient he could give them. However, his self-proclaimed leniency was seen as perfunctory in the eyes of the others. Everyone frowned, but didn't say anything. Then, another person went up onto the stage to showcase his guqin skills. When the song ended, the entire hall cheered. "Brother Chu, what do you think of this song?" Feng Yaorao asked again. "It was alright, I guess." "Alright again? Damn, this guy is quite arrogant." The crowd thought to themselves as they looked at Chu Kuangren with hostility. "By the way, Li Daozi, why don't you go up and play a song to broaden everyone's horizons?" At this moment, a musician suggested. Hearing this, everyone immediately looked at Li Changyin. Even Yang Shiyun was no exception. Meanwhile, Murong Xian also looked towards where Li Changyin and the others were. When he saw Chu Kuangren and Shang Qingxue, his eyes instantly widened. Sect leader. Murong Xian could not help but cry out in surprise. Chu Kuangren looked at him with a gloomy gaze. "You've finally noticed me, the sect leader." Everyone looked at the two of them in surprise. Yang Shiyun's eyes lit up when she saw Chu Kuangren. She said to Murong Xian, "Brother Murong, is this the sect leader you've been talking about?" "Not bad." Yang Shiyun nodded and bowed to Chu Kuangren. "Greetings, sect leader Chu. My name is Yang Shiyun." He didn't call him fellow Daoist, but sect master. It was a little respectful, as if he was meeting a parent. Chu Kuangren smiled. You're welcome, Goddess Yang. Sect leader, why are you guys here? Murong Xian asked curiously. This is a bit of a long story. If that's the case, let's wait until the banquet is over. We're here to make friends with the Guqin, not to listen to you guys reminisce. One of the Guqin musicians said unhappily. Chu Kuangren and Murong Xian both glanced at that person, but they did not say anything. Then I shall go up first. Li Changyin smiled. He then went up the stage and took out a Guqin. According to the information, this person was an expert in all kinds of musical instruments. However, no matter how good he was, there was still one instrument that he was best at, and that was the Guqin. Li Changyin smiled at the crowd elegantly. Then, he began to play with all 10 of his fingers. In an instant, Guqin music poured out and reverberated in the air. The crowd could not help but be mesmerized by the Guqin music. Even a musical Daoist master like Yang Shiyun could not help but be impressed. When the song ended, the crowd was still immersed in the music. Good, very good. As expected of Li Daozi. This song is enough to go down in the history of music. This song is not inferior to the one that Lady Yang played earlier. In fact, it's even more profound. As usual, the crowd complimented Li Changyin even more than before. Li Changyin's song instantly made it sound like there was nothing in the world. Chu Kuangren was dumbfounded. Is it really that good? Brother Chu, what do you think? Feng Yaorao asked. It's all right. Chu Kuangren admitted that Li Changyin's Guqin music was much better than the others, but to him, it was still only all right. His Guqin music was the same as the others. It had not reached a qualitative change. Pfft, I thought he was some musical Daoist expert. Turns out he's just a tone-deaf person who knows nothing about music. One of the musicians said with disdain in his eyes. The others also thought that Chu Kuangren knew nothing about musical Taoism. Otherwise, why would he give the same evaluation every time? Li Daozi's Guqin skills are obviously better than the others, but he still gave the same evaluation. It seems like he has no interest in musical Taoism at all. That's right. I guess he doesn't even know how many strings there are on the Guqin. Forget it. He's just a layman. There's no need to argue with him. The crowd laughed for a while before they ignored him. In their opinion, they were professionals, and discussing the art of the zither with a layman was simply an insult to their culture. Brother Chu, aren't you going to show off your skills? Feng Yaorao, who was beside Chu Kuangren, said. She was a little annoyed to see the crowd looking down on Chu Kuangren. The others might not know, but how could she, who had fought with Chu Kuangren before, not know? Chu Kuangren knew how to play the Guqin. Moreover, he was an expert. That 8 celestial demonic chords was still fresh in her memory. There's no need. Besides, I don't have a Guqin with me. Chu Kuangren shook his head. His expression was calm. He did not care about the gossip of the crowd. These people treated him like a layman, but he treated them like a bunch of frogs in a well. He would not easily show off his musical skills. Besides, not many people in this world were qualified to listen to his Guqin music. He couldn't be bothered to go on stage to show off just because of a few words of gossip. All right. Feng Yaorao did not say anything else. However, at that moment, the crowd turned their attention to Murong Xian. This brother Murong here has a close relationship with Lady Yang. I'm sure he has some attainments in musical Taoism. I wonder if you can show us? A white-robed musical cultivator said. Compared to Chu Kuangren, Murong Xian, who had stolen Yang Shiyun's heart, was undoubtedly more likely to be hated by these people. I'm not good with music, Murong Xian said honestly. Brother Murong, you must be joking. Are you looking down on us and thinking that we're not qualified to listen to your music? The white-robed musical cultivator's tone changed and became a little aggressive towards the end. If this is considered looking down on us, then you're really too insignificant. At that moment, an indifferent voice was heard. Chapter 520. When Chu Kuangren spoke, the white-haired Guqin master choked. Li Changyin looked at Chu Kuangren and said, "Brother Chu, you're being too harsh. We're just here to witness Brother Murong's Guqin skills." "Oh, does that mean he doesn't know how to perform? We're friends with the Guqin. If he doesn't know how to play, why would he be here?" The white-haired Guqin master said. "Why do you care if we eat or sleep?" As the host, Goddess Yang didn't even say anything, "So why are you here?" Chu Kuangren glanced at the white-haired Guqin master. At that moment, the white-haired Guqin master felt like he was being stared at by an ancient ferocious beast, and a chill ran down his spine. "All right, these are my friends. Please give me some face and let this matter rest," Yang Shiyun said. The crowd did not say anything else and let the matter rest. Soon, the banquet came to an end. Chu Kuangren's visit was a huge disappointment. Aside from Yang Shiyun and Li Changyin, the rest of the musical cultivators present were all mediocre. Even Yang Shiyun and Li Changyin could not compare to him. However, he was pleasantly surprised to see Murong Xian. The few of them gathered in a private room and discussed their recent happenings. "Tell me, how did you get together with Yang Shiyun?" Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up as his gossipy soul burned. Murong Xian blushed. "Sect leader, Goddess Yang and I are pure." "Pure? The two of you flirted with each other in public. Who would believe you if you told me you were pure? Cough cough, is it that obvious? F*ck me, you still have the nerve to say that? Isn't it obvious enough that the two of you are in a relationship written on your faces?" Actually, this is what happened. Chu Kuangren and Shang Qingxue listened with great interest. It turned out that when Murong Xian entered the emperor's path, he was transported to a forest by spatial energy. There were many demonic beasts in the forest. Murong Xian walked for a few days but he still could not get out. Later on, he met Yang Shiyun who happened to be out on a training trip. He saved her when she was surrounded by demonic beasts and the two of them spent some time together in the forest. During that period of time, the two of them developed feelings for each other. Since Murong Xian had just arrived, he followed Yang Shiyun back to the Hope Sound clan. Until today, when he met Chu Kuangren and his companion here. Chu Kuangren was a little disappointed when he heard that. "That's it? What else do you want me to do, sect leader?" Murong Xian asked helplessly. "You brat, your luck with women is not bad. You met such an innocent girl. You even managed to move her with such a cliché script of a hero saving a beauty. Shiyun is focused on studying the way of the zither. She is indeed quite simple. Oh my, you were calling me Goddess Yang just now. Why are you calling me Shiyun now?" Chu Kuangren teased. Murong Xian's face turned red. Chu Kuangren only teased him for a while. At this moment, someone knocked on the door. Yang Shiyun walked in and said with a faint smile, "Brother Murong, why don't you invite sect leader Chu and fellow Daoist Shang to the Hope Sound sect together?" Murong Xian looked at Chu Kuangren and his companion. "If that's the case, we shall take our leave then." Chu Kuangren smiled and said, "No problem." Under Yang Shiyun's invitation, Chu Kuangren and his companion arrived at the Hope Sound sect. The Hope Sound sect leader received Chu Kuangren and his companion. The Hope Sound sect leader was a middle-aged woman with a few faint crow's feet between her brows. She had a mature charm about her. When she found out that Chu Kuangren was Murong Xian's sect leader, her attitude was a little cold. She only asked someone to arrange 2 simple rooms for them. "Sect leader," although the Hope Sound sect leader didn't say it explicitly, "she seems to have something against us," Shang Qingxue said. "It's not that you have a problem with us, but with Murong Xian. Think about it, the disciple that you've painstakingly nurtured has been snatched away by an outsider. Do you think you'll treat him kindly? Chu Kuangren chuckled. Is that really it? I hope so. Otherwise, things with Murong Xian will not be easy to handle. Time passed, and soon, it was time for the Thousand Zither Banquet. The Thousand Zither Banquet was held in a huge plaza in Seven Cord City. On that day, the plaza was filled with people. Countless Zither cultivators were eagerly waiting for the Emperor weapon to appear. Everyone was waiting for the Emperor weapon to appear. Most of these people were Zither cultivators. Li Changyin, Yang Shiyun, Little Demon Ji, and a few other outstanding youths of Seven Cord City were among them. At that moment, 3 figures flew over and landed in the center of the plaza. It's the 7-string Zither Guild's 3 guild leaders. The Hope Sound sect leader, the Illusory Sound sect leader, and the Sea clan leader. Not only are these 3 legendary figures in music Dao, but they're also famous experts in the Emperor's path. Only these 3 are qualified to host the Thousand Zither Banquet. After all, it's an Emperor weapon that chooses its master. Of course, there must be a few people who are qualified to host it. The crowd of Zither cultivators at the scene discussed among themselves. Meanwhile, the 3 guild leaders swept their gazes across the crowd. They wanted to see if there were any noteworthy Zither Dao experts among them. The Northern Sea Zither sage is here too. Not only him, but even the Glaze Daoist who has been living in seclusion in the heavenly Glaze Mountain for many years is here. The gazes of the 3 guild leaders swept across the crowd. All the famous Zither cultivators in their memories had arrived. At that moment, a sword light suddenly descended from the sky. The sword light landed, and a gust of sword chi swept past like a hurricane. A handsome young man slowly walked over from the distance. This man arrived in front of the sword light and pulled out his sword. On his back was a black zither. Dressed like this, it must be the sword race's genius, Jian Changfeng. I didn't expect that even the people of the sword race would participate in this Thousand Zither Banquet. I guess most of the Zither cultivators have arrived. Jian Changfeng was one of the peak geniuses of the Emperor's Path's younger generation, second only to the forbidden geniuses. It was said that this person was so powerful that he had once fought with a quasi-emperor without being at a disadvantage. After Jian Changfeng appeared, other geniuses who were proficient in Zither Dao appeared one after another. Every one of them had a great background. Looking at these people, the ordinary Zither cultivators immediately felt great pressure. With their abilities, it would be impossible for them to obtain the Emperor weapons from these people. Forget it, I didn't have any hope in the first place. Let's just treat it as seeing the world. A few Zither cultivators comforted themselves. When the Sea clan's clan leader saw that most people had arrived, he stroked his beard and said indifferently, "Welcome, Emperor weapons." Then, a large number of dark clouds gathered in the sky. Within the dark clouds, azure lightning flashed wildly, emitting an incomparably powerful pressure. Following that, a bolt of lightning struck down. When the lightning dissipated, a beautiful azure zither that looked like it was made of crystal appeared in everyone's eyes. This zither was the Emperor weapon that many Zither cultivators dreamed of. This zither is called Spring Thunder. Chapter 521. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning descended from the sky and turned into an azure zither that looked like it was made of crystal. There were 7 strings on the zither that were overflowing with light. It was extraordinary. This zither is called Spring Thunder. Imperial Armament, Spring Thunder. As soon as the Sea clan master finished speaking, all the Zither cultivators looked at the zither with uncontrollable fanaticism in their eyes. This is an imperial armament. It is indeed extraordinary. Rumor has it that when this zither appeared, dark clouds covered the sun and thunder rumbled for 3 days. Is that why it is named Spring Thunder? Spring Thunder, the thunder of spring. It is majestic and contains the intent to nurture all living things. All the zither cultivators stared at the spring thunder and wished they could touch it. However, with the 3 presidents of the 7-string zither guild waiting there, they would not dare to act rashly even if they were 10 times more courageous. The imperial armament has appeared. Now is the time for everyone to show off and gain the recognition of the imperial armament. Please, the illusory sound sect master said. The 3 presidents had already tried, but no one could gain the recognition of the imperial armament. They had even fought over the ownership of the imperial armament. That was why they held the 10,000 zither banquet to let the spring thunder choose its own master. Since it is a zither imperial armament, one must have the corresponding cultivation of the zither Dao to gain its recognition. Let me go first. A white-robed zither master took a step forward and took out a zither. He plucked the zither with his 10 fingers and played rapidly, wanting to gain the recognition of the imperial armament. However, no matter how he played, the spring thunder did not move at all. The white-robed zither master was unwilling to give up. He kept playing and didn't even notice that the zither strings were cutting his fingers. He was like a crazy demon. Zither imperial armaments were too rare. To cultivators who specialized in the zither Dao, they were supreme treasures. Now that the treasure was right in front of the white-robed zither master, how could he be willing to give up? Your zither Dao cultivation is not enough, Jian Chongfeng from the Sword Clan said. Jian Chongfeng from the Sword Clan said faintly. With a raise of his hand, a boundless spiritual energy burst out and sent the white-clothed zither player flying. The white-robed zither player fell to the ground. Just as he was about to get up and resist, a biting cold sword intent locked onto him. It was like a bucket of cold water had been poured over his head, causing him to sober up. He looked at the sword race's genius, Jian Chongfeng, and did not dare to act rashly. He glanced at the spring lightning and knew that he was not fated to obtain this monarch weapon. Jian Chongfeng ignored the zither player and looked at the spring lightning before him. He said indifferently, "This emperor weapon must have been prepared for me." Then, he took down the black zither on his back, placed it across his knees, and began to play. He was known as the Guqin and sword duel master. His Guqin music was just like his sword, filled with a biting cold aura. The sound of the zither was extraordinary, bursting out with the sound of metal. It was as if thousands of men and horses were charging and colliding in front of them. Great music. Good skills. A zither master's eyes lit up and he couldn't help but sigh in praise. Everyone looked at the monarch weapon, spring lightning. The monarch weapon trembled slightly, but it soon became motionless. Jian Chongfeng frowned slightly. He hadn't expected that the monarch weapon would still not acknowledge him. As expected of a monarch weapon. However, I must obtain you today. Jian Chongfeng coldly snorted. Then, he plucked the strings with his 10 fingers, and the zither music increased by another level. Let's attack together. I don't know how long we will have to wait. If you want to gain the monarch weapon's acknowledgement, you will have to rely on your own abilities. Many zither cultivators present could no longer hold back. They took out their zither and began to play. Li Changyin, Yang Shiyun, Ji Xiaoyao, and the other zither path geniuses were no exception. For a time, the entire plaza was filled with countless zither tunes, and all kinds of Dao runes filled the air. Thousands of strings danced, and thousands of zither tunes rang out. All the zither cultivators were performing their own zither tunes in an attempt to attract the monarch weapon. Among them, several zither tunes were the most obvious. Apart from Jian Chongfeng's zither tunes, Li Changyin and the other 7 Flux City geniuses were more outstanding. Among them, Li Changyin's zither tunes were somewhat illusory, like the illusory clouds in the sky, lofty and ethereal. Hope Sound Sect's Yang Shiyun was also very extraordinary. Compared to the affectionate tune she had played at the Cloud Xian Pavilion a few days ago, the tune she was playing today was like a high mountain and flowing river. It was majestic and had a profound artistic conception. It was like a long scroll of mountains and rivers that was slowly unfolding. On the other side, the petite Ji Xiaoyao held a zither in her hands. The zither tunes she played were sonorous and powerful. Each tune seemed to use all of her strength, bursting forth with a majestic intent. It was the Sea clan's legacy song, the Song of Righteousness. Most of the zither cultivators' zither tunes were suppressed by those few geniuses' zither tunes. Some of the zither players were even disrupted and did not know how to continue playing. However, no matter how hard the zither cultivators tried, they were unable to resonate with the monarch weapon, spring lightning, let alone make it recognize them as its master. Damn it, it is indeed not an easy task to gain the monarch weapon's acknowledgement. We've already given it our all and played the zither tunes that we're most proud of, but it's still useless? Just as everyone was trying their best to gain the monarch weapon's acknowledgement. Loud laughter suddenly sounded from above the clouds. This laughter was extremely loud and contained an extremely dense spiritual power, echoing through the clouds. All the zither tunes in the square were suppressed by this laughter. There is no one in the current generation who can gain the monarch weapon's acknowledgement. Two people could be seen walking through the clouds. They were two old men. One carried a zither on his back, while the other carried a huge paintbrush. They exuded an extremely powerful quasi-emperor aura. The expressions of the three presidents of the Zither Club changed at once when they saw these two people. It's them, the Zither Demon, Painting Ghost. What are these two fellows doing here? The Zither Demon, Painting Ghost, was definitely a legendary name on the monarch path. Of these two people, one had entered the Tao through the zither, while the other had entered the Tao through painting. Their cultivation levels were extraordinary and they were top existences among the quasi-emperors. However, these two people did not have a good reputation on the monarch path. The Zither Demon was good at collecting zither. Any zither that caught his eye, he would get his hands on it, even if the zither already had an owner. The Painting Ghost was almost the same, but there was one difference. He collected all the famous paintings in the world to copy them. After copying them, he would destroy the original version and then deliberately spread the copied painting. Due to his superb painting skills, very few people could see through the authenticity of the painting. He liked the feeling of toying with the painters of the world. Once someone saw through the disguise, he would go to the person's door and kill the person who saw through the disguise. Therefore, even if someone could tell that the paintings were copied by Painting Ghost, they wouldn't dare to say it. Because of this, the Zither Demon, Painting Ghost did not have a good reputation on the monarch path. But because of their great strength, no one had ever been able to do anything to them. Later on, the two of them seemed to have retired and haven't appeared for thousands of years. But this time, the appearance of the monarch weapon, Spring Thunder, attracted the two of them. There is no one in the current generation who can gain the monarch weapon's acknowledgement. If that's the case, then it would be impolite of me to refuse. The one who spoke was the Zither Demon. His black hair fluttered in the wind as he took out a completely black zither that exuded an eerie vibe. That was the Zither Demon's most precious collection, the zither of the demonic Een. Chapter 522. With the appearance of the Een demon zither, a cold and sinister Tao rime spread out, causing the surrounding temperature to drop to freezing point. Especially the zither of the zither cultivators present, which were shrouded in a layer of treacherous chill. Some of the zither cultivators' fingers were corroded by this chill, and they couldn't help but throw away their zither, looking at the zither devil and the zither in his hands in horror. What zither is that? How could it be so treacherous? That zither is strange. Only Li Changyin and the other geniuses could resist the chill. However, they couldn't help but look at the zither devil with fear. This is the zither devil? Is that the legendary Een demon zither? It really is extraordinary. Terrifying. The zither devil swept his cold gaze over the crowd and sneered, "This is the current generation's outstanding zither talent. Apart from a few people who can be used, the rest are all trash. Hearing this, the zither cultivators were somewhat unwilling. However, due to the zither devil's strength, they could only suppress their dissatisfaction, not daring to reveal the slightest bit. Seeing their attitudes, the disdain in the zither devil's eyes intensified. "Zither devil, what are you doing here?" the Sea Clan patriarch asked. "What am I doing? Of course I'm here to make this imperial zither weapon recognize me as its master." The zither devil chuckled and looked at Chun-Lei. "After so many years, this is the first time I've seen a zither imperial weapon. How could I miss such a zither? You are not welcome here," the illusory sound sect master said coldly. Zither cultivators would not have a good impression of the zither devil. Seven Flux City was a gathering place for zither cultivators, so it was even less likely that the zither devil would be welcome. "Since you don't have the ability to make the imperial weapon recognize you as its master, let me do it. Since you don't welcome me, what does it have to do with me? Brother zither devil, you can focus on your own matters. Let me handle these old fellows," Painted Ghost said with a smile. He looked at the Sea Clan patriarch and the others with disdain in his eyes. He took out the giant brush on his back and lightly drew a line. A huge ink mark appeared in the air. The ink mark spread out, transforming into a landscape of mountains and rivers, covering an area of several dozen li. It instantly pulled the Sea Clan patriarch and the others into a world within a painting. "Everyone, be careful. Let me see what kind of methods the rumored Painted Ghost has." While the Sea Clan patriarch and the other two quasi-emperors were entangled with the Painted Ghost, the zither demon had already made his move. He looked at the spring thunder in front of him, his 10 fingers quickly dancing on the magic zither. Strange zither sounds erupted, shaking a radius of 100 miles. Hearing this sound, countless creatures felt as if their heads were going to explode, and they clutched their heads in pain as they howled. Even a prodigy like Li Changyin had no choice but to circulate his spiritual energy to resist this strange zither music. Clank clank clank, the frenzied and eerie sound of the zither reverberated through the air. Not far away, the spring thunder zither seemed to have also sensed the sound and began to tremble. "Yes, that's right. That's it. Submit to me, spring thunder. I am the only master in this world who can bring out your full potential." The zither devil's eyes were burning with passion. Just as he had said, after collecting zither for so many years, this was the first time he had encountered a zither emperor weapon. He absolutely couldn't miss it. He even envisioned the scene of him wielding this emperor weapon and slaughtering his way through the world. If this goes on, this spring thunder zither might really be subdued by the zither devil. Li Changyin and the rest could not help but reveal grave expressions when they saw this. If you want to subdue an emperor weapon, you'll have to ask for my permission first." Jian Changfeng suddenly bellowed, drew his long sword, and slashed across the sky. Terrifying sword chi poured out. Junior, you're a hindrance." The zither devil snorted coldly and plucked the zither strings. A powerful zither music Daoist rhyme erupted, shattering the zither sword and sending Jian Changfeng flying hundreds of feet away. So powerful. Jian Changfeng's pupils shrank slightly. Just a single zither music was unbearable for him, which meant that the zither devil's combat strength was much stronger than his. If it wasn't for the sake of the sword race, that zither music would have been enough to kill you," the zither devil said coldly. When the rest heard this, they could not help but sigh inwardly. Indeed, it was good to have a powerful background. If it was someone else, that person would have been killed by that zither music. The might of the zither devil shocked everyone, and no one dared to approach and obstruct the zither devil anymore. "It seems like this spring lightning does not belong to us." Li Changyin's expression turned ugly. The zither devil is extremely cruel. Now that he has obtained this emperor weapon, who knows how he'll harm the world. Yang Shiyun's eyes were filled with worry. She looked at the Ji clan's clan head and the rest who were fighting with the painted ghost. The painted ghost was extremely powerful, and he was not at a disadvantage even when fighting with 3 quasi-emperors at the same time. There were thousands of ghosts wailing in the world in the painting, and it was a horrifying scene from hell. Although the 3 quasi-emperors did not pose much of a hindrance to the painted ghost, they would not be able to break out of the world in a short period of time. If the zither devil obtained the emperor weapon, then no one would be able to stop the 2 of them. Buzz! At that moment, the emperor weapon, spring lightning, exploded with a terrifying emperor aura. With a clang, a terrifying sound wave spread out like a sudden clap of thunder. The zither devil was sent flying hundreds of feet away by this tyrannical force. After repelling the zither devil, spring lightning once again calmed down. Upon seeing this scene, everyone turned pale with fright. Especially the zither devil, his expression was extremely ugly. You rejected me? You actually rejected me? In this world, apart from me, the zither devil, who else is worthy of using you? The zither devil roared at the emperor weapon, spring lightning. Everyone looked at each other. They did not expect that even the zither devil would not be able to obtain the emperor weapon, spring lightning's recognition. One should know that although the zither devil's character was not very good, his zither Dao cultivation was unquestionable. In terms of zither Dao, if he was ranked second, then no one would dare to say that they were ranked first. Since you don't recognize me, then no one else can obtain you. The zither devil's eyes were crazed as he charged at spring lightning. He wanted to snatch spring lightning by force. Even if he could not obtain its recognition, he would hide it so that no one else could obtain it. Spring lightning seemed to have sensed the zither devil's thoughts. The azure body of the zither released a bolt of lightning, which turned into an air barrier in front of the zither devil. The zither devil's hand collided with the lightning, causing a loud explosion in the void. However, although spring lightning was powerful, it was ultimately a weapon without a master. It could not unleash 100% of its power. The zither devil's hand continued to break through the lightning and grabbed at spring lightning. However, at that moment, Guqin music suddenly rang out. The crowd was stunned. Who would dare to play Guqin music at a time like this? No, it's not just one Guqin music. Suddenly, the crowd realized something and their faces were filled with shock. All the Gyukins around them started to play on their own, letting out a melodious Guqin music. What's going on? Li Changyin looked at the Guqin in her hand, shocked and confused. Look, it's him. At that moment, the crowd looked not far away. They saw a black-haired young man in a white robe slowly walking towards them. His body emanated an extremely mysterious Guqin Daoist rhyme. Wherever he went, the strings of the Guqin seemed to be controlled by an invisible giant hand, letting out Guqin music as if they were welcoming the honorable Guqin. All the Guqin welcomed him. Sorry I'm late. Chu Kuangren looked at spring lightning not far away and smiled as if it was something that belonged to him. Chapter 523. Chu Kuangren arrived at the banquet of 10,000 Guqin and released a mysterious Guqin Daoist rhyme. All of a sudden, tens of thousands of Guqin greeted him. When everyone saw this, their faces were filled with indescribable shock. It was as if the person in front of them was the god of Guqin. Otherwise, why would there be such a phenomenon? It's him. How can it be him? Li Changyin's expression changed. He recognized Chu Kuangren. Besides him, many people at the scene recognized Chu Kuangren as well. When this person appeared at the Cloud Pavilion a few days ago, they thought that he knew nothing about Guqin Dao. However, the scene in front of them gave them a hard slap in the face. If the person in front of them knew nothing about Guqin Dao, then what were they? I can't believe what Brother Murong said was true. Yang Shiyun looked at Chu Kuangren's back with shock in her eyes. She suddenly remembered that Murong Xian once said that his sect leader also knew how to play the Guqin, and he played it better than her. That made the two of them fight for a while. She had forgotten about it after that. However, she now knew that Murong Xian did not lie to her. The Black Heaven sect leader was indeed an expert in Guqin Dao. "Kid, who are you?" The Guqin demon looked at Chu Kuangren, who suddenly appeared and stopped playing. He looked at him seriously. He could sense that the Guqin Daoist rhyme on the person in front of him was too extraordinary. "It's Master." Chu Kuangren pointed at the spring thunder and smiled. "You flatter me." The Guqin demon snorted. The spring thunder had never been recognized as its master ever since it appeared. How could it have a master? Without another word, he pointed the demonic Guqin at Chu Kuangren and said coldly, "I don't care who you are, you must die for trying to steal my Guqin." He pressed his fingers on the demonic Guqin and started playing. Chaotic Guqin music poured out like a group of demons dancing, eerie and terrifying. The surrounding void exploded under the Guqin music. It was terrifying. Li Changyin, Yang Shiyun, and the others quickly retreated, afraid that they would be affected by the Guqin music. Chu Kuangren stood still. When the Guqin music got close to him, it was blocked by an invisible mind power. "Your Guqin music is really noisy," Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Then, he gently swiped his finger in the air. An invisible thread appeared, and there was a Guqin Daoist rhyme wrapped around it. Those were zither strings. Condensing qi into a string. Heaven and earth are the cord. The surrounding zither cultivators couldn't help but be shocked at this scene. The heaven and earth were the strings. This was the highest realm of the zither Dao. There were no strings in his hands, but wherever the Daoist rhyme touched, everything in the world, even a strand of hair, could be used as a zither string. The musical cultivators did not expect Chu Kuangren's musical Dao realm to have reached such a level. Even the zither devil's pupils constricted. Even he was still quite a distance away from the heaven and earth as a string realm. The person in front of him was able to use it so easily. This was simply too unbelievable. It's been a while since I've used the way of the zither against an opponent. You're lucky enough to witness it. Chu Kuangren chuckled. His fingers plucked at the qi strings that were condensing in the air, and a terrifying Guqin Daoist rhyme suddenly filled the air. Third celestial demonic chord, grand reverie. The strings moved and the sound of the zither rang out. The sound of the zither seemed to have traveled through countless years and came from ancient times. It carried with it an ancient, simple, and heavy aura. Amidst the rumble, the ancient Guqin sound instantly shattered the zither devil's frenzied zither music and slammed into the zither devil's body with a majestic aura. A mist of blood gushed out. The zither devil flew back a few dozen feet. He looked at Chu Kuangren with an indescribable shock in his eyes. This kind of Guqin music. How is this possible? Not far away, Gui Gui, the Sea clan head, and the others who were fighting also stopped. They looked at Chu Kuangren with a face full of shock. Gui Gui's expression changed. He dispersed the Daoist rhyme around him and quickly came to the zither devil's side. "Brother zither devil, are you all right?" The zither devil wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. "It's not a big deal, but this person's musical Dao cultivation is unfathomable. I'm afraid I'm no match for him alone. It's fine. If you and I join forces, I don't believe we can't take him down." "All right." The zither devil nodded. Gui Gui's huge brush drew in the void. It was as if a large bucket of ink was poured into the void, and a large amount of ink was rendered. It was as if the entire world had turned into a painting. The painting was not of beautiful flowers and plants, nor was it of majestic mountains and rivers, let alone a beautiful woman. It was the 1,000 ghosts of hell. In the painting, a ferocious evil ghost formed from ink rushed towards Chu Kuangren and tried to devour him. The zither devil, on the other hand, sat cross-legged and plucked the demonic Guqin with all 10 fingers. A frenzied and eerie tune suddenly echoed between the heavens and the earth. The wails of the thousand ghosts were mixed with this eerie tune, multiplying its power. The terrifying Daoist rhyme filled the heavens and the earth, forming a scene of doomsday as it played the demonic music of madness. What a terrifying power! I can't believe the Zither Devil and Gui Gui can unleash such power when they join forces. Oh my God, these two people's power is too terrifying. One by one, the young cultivators could not help but be dumbfounded when they saw the power displayed by the Zither Devil and Gui Gui. This kind of power was too tyrannical. Even the Sea Clan head and the other quasi-emperors felt their hearts palpitate. This power is probably close to the Emperor realm? The Sea Clan head gulped and said. The Emperor realm was not a realm, but a collective term for those who were stronger than the boundary emperor but weaker than the Emperor realm. In the entire Emperor's path, there were not many who possessed the combat strength of an emperor. Most of them were the mainstays of the ancient orthodoxies. When the Zither Devil and Gui Gui joined forces, they could unleash a power that was close to the Emperor realm. No wonder they dared to come to Seven Chord City to steal the Spring Thunder. With such power, even if they could not defeat the combined forces of several ancient orthodoxies, no one would be able to stop them from leaving. The combination of the guqin and the painting? That's interesting. Chu Kuangren smirked as he felt the terrifying pressure coming from all directions. It was rare for him to feel threatened. As the thousand ghosts approached, the sword chi around Chu Kuangren tore them apart one by one. However, Gui Gui used his spiritual power as ink to form evil ghosts, so it was almost endless. In addition, the Zither Devil's guqin music was getting more and more frenzied as if it was about to reach a whole new level. Young lad, this demonic hum ghost painting is the result of our 1,000 years of research. You should be honored that you're the first person to witness this power. Gui Gui said coldly as he held a giant brush in his hand. Upon hearing that, the crowd finally realized why Gui Gui and the Zither Devil had disappeared all these years. It turned out that they had gone to research the combination of the guqin and the painting techniques. It was worth noting that the effect was very obvious. The guqin and the painting, two different Daoist rhymes, two different techniques, and two different energies fused to form a brand new, earth-shattering power. It was a high degree of synergy between the Daoist rhymes of two boundary emperors. It was the rarest sight in the world. However, in the face of such a scene and such power, Chu Kuangren did not panic at all. His eyes were still as calm as ever. It was like a bottomless pool of ice, without a single ripple. You should be honored, because you're about to hear the most beautiful music in this world. This is a guqin music played for the gods and demons. It's the true sound of nature. A terrifying guqin Daoist rhyme erupted from Chu Kuangren's body as he yelled, "Guqin, come!" You're tuning in to the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.